Rahubat, Rahubat, greetings. Rahubat Moisar. Okay, I appreciate everyone tuning in. We're now live right now. Actual Facts Podcast, episode 14. We're also live on other platforms, so I welcome those who are just joining in. For those that are on TikTok that are following, make sure you subscribe to the Actual Facts Podcast. We're now on episode 14. We don't want anyone to miss this one. If you've checked out the previous ones, episode 1 through 13, I appreciate that. If you have any questions relating to those episodes, make sure you email. The email is in the description. There, you have access to the many wonderful publications that our Father in flesh, His Excellency Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, the author of over 1,500 books, 1,500 books he's written, right? And this Actual Fact podcast reflects the numerous amount of scientific information that has been taught to us by him for the last 40 years. There's a series of publications known as Actual Facts, series of publications that are known as the Patrak, that in these podcasts, we will address. 3 times a month, they request for us to do other episodes, maybe once a week, with other videos that we'll be posting live. We have so much to inform you about, so much information, outformation that's been given to us, that I will begin to do one a week. It's necessary. And yes, okay. Thank you, Sonora. I appreciate you all tuning in. And make sure I am on TikTok. Welcome TikTok, my new TikTok followers. I uploaded one of the clips and it's really doing well. I didn't forget about my TikTok followers. What it is that I want to build a base fan followers, and this is what's taking place. So I appreciate everyone joining in. We're now streaming live on these multiple platforms. But this episode 14, is going to cover a lot of questions that we've been having in the emails I've been getting. Clubhouse also questions about this serpent in the garden and other creatures that are in the biblical and Quranic text, as well as the story itself. We basically going to take our time, not take our time. We don't have a lot of time to uncover this information because we actually running out of time. But for the last 6,000 years, we have been placed under a spell of religious doctrine that has kept us from the ability of reasoning and questioning. And fortunately for us, blessed on this planet to the African Nagardanet race and humans across the planet who are interested in facts, we have a master teacher who has incarnated to teach us and raise us up from the mentally dead, and has done an incredible job in raising the 144,000, the lost souls that are spread out and lost in different areas of society across the planet. So most of them are lost in religious doctrine. And so it's our job to make sure that we uncover 1,500, yes, 1,500 books. It's share also for those that are on TikTok, also share. So we're going to cover step by step most of the publications that he's not most of the publications, as many as we can, because it's so many. His pen is incredible. The love and the outformation that's flown from his that's flows from his pen is great. Is beyond great. Greatness is for human beings. It's really no words that I can express to show the appreciation and love we have for His Excellency Dr. Malachi Z.K. York. And we are absolutely, this is a part of his freedom fight by getting those who are familiar with him, but are not aware of exactly who he is, what he has been teaching, and why it's pertinent for us to come together mentally, which we're doing now. And it's an incredible thing happening that across the globe, because Wu Sabat, which is our spiritual science, is actually what do you call filtering into the matrix of the conscious minds of our people globally. This is why you see a massive amount of information or intellect that's unfolding into the minds of the people. They're questioning like no other before. They're questioning, they're accepting the idea and the knowledge of extraterrestrials, which is the main topic and how we got to this episode, extraterrestrial beings, which we covered in episode 4, in episode 5. Several episodes we covered, even in dimensional beings and intergalactic beings, we've talked about in those previous episodes, 7, episode 4, and episode 5. But a lot of this question came up in this question about the serpent and this so-called devil character. What I was mentioning was this. I mentioned that, okay, across the religious scope, there are discrepancies, so-called claims of my God is the right God, Allah, Jehovah, the Elohim, Yahweh. Everyone has their own God. And they say, well, my God is the right one. My God, Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest. Jehovah is alone. We only follow Yah's words. Let's say El Shaddai is his name, right? And then the Lord of hosts. There's many El Ra. You have many different names that is given to these particular beings, right? Human beings just don't have an idea who these characters are, but they do acknowledge that these are beings that comes from a specific place, right? And they accept these beings, right? But they will say, well, mine is different from this is why you have religious classifications of various sects, even amongst their own monotheistic groups. They have their own sects within their groups, which we covered last week in the crucifixion of Christianity. But what we don't address is the fact that there's a common acceptance of one being who they all know as the devil. No one has different devils. You have different gods, you have different angels, you have different names, you have different books, but they will agree in their doctrine as there's one devil or group, this one being who was responsible for the fall of all of man, and they say it's the serpent, which I find that very ironic that every human being, all of the religious world can agree on a devil. That's unheard of. To say that the Muslims, Jews, Christians, they would say, well, the devil is the one responsible. How is it that you all can agree on a devil, right? But can't agree on the being that you all worship together? But you can agree on this one being. So this examination, who's the serpent in the garden, will touch on why they all agree that this one being is their Satan or their devil, right? Which is not in Genesis, and why it's been a concentrated effort to focus on this being as this is the devil. Muslims will say this is Shaitan. Jews will say this is Diablos, or what's the word in the Hebrew for literally the word is Sa'ir, for those that don't know, which we'll address in Leviticus 17. You don't know, it's really goat man. You don't see devil in Genesis. So we're going to address the specific names. We're going to address why there's a so-called unanimous agreement. But however, when you read the text, that's not something that we see when we read it. Now, we're going to approach this objectively with actual facts, not emotional, not from something you've converted to and been taught, because everyone has been lied to. And this is what the Father has been talking and teaching us for the last 40 years, that it's our minds that have to wake up to deal with reasoning. Now, share again for those that I hope I'm clear. If I'm clear, just type in yes, I'm clear. And we have announcements to be made. So I hope you all stay tuned in for the launching of the website. We want to make sure that I get all of your emails as well. So make sure you send a hi email in the UnitedNubianNation at gmail.com so you can receive how to get the books. I'm just making it where early books that we're in reference to, specifically this one that it was recently revealed, right? Here, you'll see who is the serpent in Genesis. For those that are looking, serpent in Genesis chapter 3, because chapter 3 is where you first find this being. Now, we're going to find out what this being name is. Not only the serpent, there's other creatures of the biblical text that are like untouched, no one talks about. There's literally beings, Leviathan, you see, right? In the text, you have gargoyles that are in the text. You have cockatrice that are in the text, unicorns. You have Barak, which is the Muslims' creature that Muhammad had so-called took from Isra to the heavens and landed in the mosque in Jerusalem, which wasn't even there at the time. So for some reason, they have a story in their hadith that speaks about a specific being with a horse with wings and a tail that Muhammad, that was illuminated. But yet, when you ask the religious world, do you accept Pegasus, the Greek gods, creatures that's spoken about in their mythology? They will say no. If you ask the average religious person, do you accept unicorns? They will say no. If you say, well, do you accept lion men or goat men? They will say no. But in your biblical text, it's all there. And we're going to go through it. This is why the Father has written these publications for us to examine, to say, why is it so many different freaks and creatures of these books that no one is addressing? Why is it taught that this being created a perfect man? Everybody was perfect. And then there was one serpent, one creature who ended up in this Lord's house in Genesis 3. He pops up, right, as a creature, as someone who was able to speak the language of Adam and Eve and speak the language of the Lord. They don't tell you what language it is, but let's say he ends up in God's house for some reason. They don't explain how he entered. They don't explain why they weren't warned about this being, right? And why is it that they were amongst the same group, or they all a part of the Elohim? We're going to address who this character is in specific detail. Now, one thing we would like to point out is that nowhere in this book, even though the religious world wants to teach you that this being was a devil, you don't find the devil there. You don't find the word Satan there. What you do find is the word Nakash, right? Nakash is meaning a whisperer. And that whisperer, or that word there, comes from a specific Strong's number, right? Which let's get into this character by this character, as well as the various beings that you also find in Genesis as well. Because when you move from Genesis 3 to Genesis 6, you see about 5 different races of beings in Genesis 6 alone. You find the Gaborim there, which is the tyrants, that under Strong's number 1368. You'll find it in Genesis 6:4. And Samuel's in the First Samuel as well. And the Strong's number 1761. You'll find the word Nephil, which means to fall down, or Nephilim. That's spoken of. Another species, you'll find that in Genesis chapter 6, verse 4 again. Also in Numbers 13:33. You're going to find the sons obeying Elohim in Genesis chapter 6, again, verse 4. That entire chapter this is the third species there. There's another species that's not spoken of, and that's not addressed. The killers in the land of Nod. That's a fourth group. So just 4 alone, and the serpent 5, and the Lord, which is another species, or of another group, which is almost 6. The demigods that came out of the raping of the Nephilim, who went in unto the daughters of the Adamites, is another species. You'll also find the sons of Anak, which is in Numbers 13:33, another group. The Anakim is there. You'll find them in Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 11. You'll find Yahweh. You'll find Baal. You'll find Dagon in Judges. You'll find Leviathan in Job. You'll find the beast, which is the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. You'll find that in the book of Revelations. You'll also find cockatrice in this book. You'll find werewolves in the text. You'll even find zombies in the book of Matthew coming out of the graves, the dead coming alive. So all of these species is throughout this text, but no one seems to want to address it because of reverends, imams, and Muslim, the Muslim imams, the reverends, the rabbis. They don't want to tell you that there was an invasion of species from all over many different parts of the universe down on this planet. And this is something that the Father introduced 30 years ago. Now human beings on this planet are able to accept the fact that this is now more probable than not, because the idea of extraterrestrials has always been there in your religious doctrine. It's just been covered over with mythological spookism and not addressing the facts as we do in this actual fact. So if you have any questions, put it in the group, in the chat, and please share. So let's see where this serpent character and how he pops up and the questions that he asks and why they say he's a deceiver. I don't see it there. And I want you all, if you see it, let us know that you see deception, because we would like to know, why is this character given this name? And then we'll understand this serpent symbol and why it's used in Egypt, and why Moses, the head of the Judaic doctrine, the head of the Hebrew doctrine, uses this symbol as a symbol of healing. So there's contradictory statements about this serpent. In one instance, you call him a devil or a Satan, which is not there. In another instance, your Yahweh tells the Hebrews. Now, I'm talking to the Hebrew Israelites as well, the Jews as well. I don't know why you're using the Palladian six-pointed star when that wasn't the symbol that was initially given to you as a symbol of healing. It was the symbol of the serpent, which you'll find in ancient Egypt as the Kundalini, or the medical symbol. All of the American societies of medical associations across in America and across the European world, all across the world, you see this medical symbol as a serpent and is used as a symbol of medicine. Even Yahshua, your Jesus of 2,000 years ago, that you claim is the most intelligent being, or was closest to God, he says you should be wise as a serpent. So in his mind, wisdom is associated with a serpent, and this serpent expresses some type of information or wisdom in Genesis that we have to look at objectively, so we can break this 6,000-year-old spell that the real devil, the true devils of the world, has pointed you and the finger at a being, calling it the devil, when actually this being of Genesis 2, right, this Lord, will actually find out who was the real liar. So we have a lot to unpack. So I hope you all will stay tuned and share. So let's see where this serpent pops up. Now, Genesis 3 says, the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, the beast of the field which the Lord God had made. A lot of people read this verse and say, well, the Lord God made the beast and made the serpent. That's not what it's saying. It's saying the serpent was more intelligent than all of the beasts that this being had made, that the beast that this Lord God had made, not man. It doesn't say that the Lord God had made man here. It says the beast, he also made beast. And you'll see that in the Strong's number, right? And it says, and he said, this is the serpent talking, right? Actually, not the serpent talking. This is someone recording what the serpent said. The mind frame you have to see is that if this is the word of God, or the Lord, the words of the Lord, if he's writing, or if he's if a person is, let's say this Lord is repeating or reciting a specific story, then who is the speaking of when it says, and the Lord God had made, and he said unto the woman, yea, hath God said. Now, I thought this was God talking. Let's move on. I'm just giving you pointers to think about. Yea, hath God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? Let me back up. What I mean by God talking, I'm saying the writer of this text is what I mean by that. Not this quote here. I don't want to confuse anyone. When I said I thought this was the Lord talking, this should be speaking in a first person. And I said, right? But it's not recorded that way, because you'll see this person writing this book, the person autographing this book, is speaking about what God is saying. It's not God speaking. So all of the religious people who are saying this is the word of God, God is not speaking in this book. Nowhere do you see this Lord or this being speaking in the book. You're hearing, you're reading what someone said, a being called the Lord or a being called God said. That's the difference. So don't get caught up in we have the holy word of God. It wouldn't say that. It would say, and God said, or I said to the serpent, or I said to Eve, or I said to Moses. Moses came to me up in the mountain, and I gave him a book that I wrote called the Torah. Or in the beginning, it would say, in the beginning, or at the very beginning, I, the Lord, your God, made this earth and made this heaven, or separated the day from the night, and created this animals, and named and made man. I made man in my image. but it's someone recording a conversation. And the Lord said, let us make man. There was someone outside of the group writing about what these beings were speaking about. So you have to deal with contextually. And then I'm not even speaking about in the Hebrew text. That's something totally different. In the basic grammar of the English that you're taught, grammatical rules, if you're writing about yourself and you're giving a specific story, then you're writing in a way that people are knowing is coming from you and not from someone else being recorded. But let's move forward. I just wanted to make that point. And the woman said, let's back up. Yeah, hath Elohim. That word is Elohim, Strong's number 410 and 430. Hath Elohim said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent, this Nakash, said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die. Stop. This word, Ma'ut, is there in the Strong's number, right? You'll read this Strong's number. Pull it up. I don't have the Strong's number in front of me. That particular one. Maybe I do. It's covered in these notes. This Strong's number is the word die is the same word used in Genesis 2, verse 17. But of the tree of knowledge, he's in reference to the serpent, and this woman is in reference to this verse 17 of the previous chapter, 2:17. But of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day ye eat thereof, thou shalt surely die. Rahobat, those that are coming in. That same word there is used in Genesis chapter 3, verse 4. And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die. Let's take note of what this Lord said. First of all, he said, for in the day, and that word day is yom. It literally speaks about a specific time frame, not symbolic. Hebrew Israelites, it's not a symbolic, Christians, it's not a symbolic of 1,000 years or symbolic of a certain things that we don't understand. A lot of the one of the talking points, they say, oh, you have to understand it and read it from the spiritual manner in order for you to understand it. No, we don't. Stop saying that because you can't explain it. It says day. The same word is used. You know it's the same word because in Genesis chapter 1, the word day is there as well when he says, and God, in verse 7 and 9, where he speaks in the creation of the planet, as you read in Genesis 1, he separates the day from the night, right? It says, and 14, let there be light in the firmament of the heavens in the divide of the day. That same word, day from night, is a specific time frame, and it literally means sunset to sunrise to sunset. So it's not talking about 1,000 years. So when this Lord said, in the day ye shall surely die, Eve is understanding the death as in the day. The moment you touch it, you will die, because that's what it says right there in 17. This is what this Lord said, for the day that thou eateth, therefore thou shalt surely die. So the serpent says, you shall not surely die, for God does know that in the day ye eat thereof, your eyes shall be open, ye shall be as gods, know good and evil. These are three things. Let's follow this. I would like someone to put it in the chat for me if you're following along, so you can understand. People can understand what was being expressed here. It says, one, this is the serpent in verse 5. He made 3 points. One was that in the day ye eat thereof, your eyes will be open. That has to be, you have to understand that this is something that the serpent is expressing to Eve. And if you find deception there, I would like you to just lay it out, put it in there. Understand that you can find the deception if it's there. I don't have a problem. We don't have a problem with acknowledging that. But someone has just overlaid us in our minds and say it was deception. And I'm seeing a question being presented. And then I see a statement, for God does know that in the day ye eat thereof, your eyes will be open. Yes. Thank you. One, in the day ye eat, your eyes will be open. Two, write down two. Your eyes shall be, and ye shall be as gods. This word, now, this word it has an S on it. Follow this. This same word, gods, with an S, and that's what the Father has been trying to explain to the religion. This is we have to keep going over this over and over and over, because people will say, well, God is singular as one being. And the translators deceived all of us, because the word God in the beginning of the verse 5, for God does know, is Strong's number 430. Put it in the chat. 430. It's Elohim. It's a plurality. This plurality is there. You know it's a plurality because, and the translators know it's more than one being, because in the same verse, at the end of the verse, they add an S on the word in the English. How are you adding an S on the same word, Elohim, God, in the beginning, which you translated as singular there, and you put a S on the same word and lowercase the g to appear as though one is lesser and one is greater? That's the trick that people are under the spell. They say, well, this is a smaller g. There's a book called God, God, God. What is the difference? That was taught and written by the Father to explain that because there's no upper and lowercase g's or letters in the Semitic languages. You don't have upper and lower cases in Arabic, you don't have it in Aramic, and you don't have it in Hebrew. There are no upper and lower cases, right? And the plural here, this God, the translators intentionally mistranslated it as a singular being. So everyone is under the impression in their concept of God, the concept, not what you convert it to, not what you believe, not what you think is all the heaven. No, it's the concept of a one being was introduced in this mistake, that there's one being in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 2. The translators, someone was trying to be as honest as they could and put the S there to let you know, it's really plural. We don't want you to know that, because we want you to worship one God that we choose, that we want you to follow, that we want you to sacrifice to. This is the deception of these beings who came to the planet. In Genesis 6, you'll see that their deception to pass themselves off as your Lord and as your God, they made you choose one and have an agreement with the one that Abraham does in Genesis 17 as the Lord. This is the Lord that you made a covenant with. But it doesn't express that here. This is a plurality. It says you have two there. Okay, yeah, and your eyes should. Now let's get to these 3 points that this Nakash being has spoken of. He says, for God does know that in the day ye eat thereof, 1, your eyes will be open. 2, ye shall be as gods. 3, knowing good and evil. 6, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, did eat, and gave also unto her husband, and he did eat. I wish someone was here to read this with me, because I don't want to read it, because I want someone else to point out the 3 things. What happened in verse 7? It says, and the eyes of them both were open. You go back to the first thing that this Nakash, this wise being, be wise as a serpent, as Yahshua, your savior of the religious world, teaches. You have to be wise as a serpent. I wonder which serpent he's talking about. Because if this being is giving information to this Hawa or Eve, that your eyes shall be open, and in verse 7, and the eyes of them both were open, for God does know that in the day ye eat thereof, your eyes shall be open, in verse 5, and ye shall be as gods. and ye shall be as gods. You shall be as the Elohim. You should be as the group of beings, knowing good and evil. And in verse 7, and the eyes of them both were open, and they knew. The second part, he said that ye shall be as gods, and you will know. The third area, he said, you shall know good and evil. And in 7, it says, and the eyes of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked. They knew this was, according to them, an evil thing because they were naked, and they began to sow fig leaves. So they assumed this was something that that was negative or evil because they covered themselves. But it was the serpent that told them that their eyes will be open. And it's not something that was a deception, because this Lord that said that in the day ye eat thereof, you shall die, they didn't die. And the religious world, they will say, oh, they died eventually. That's not what, that's why I specifically used the word and made the comparison that in the description or the definition of Yom, the Strong's number there, it is what? Day, as in sunrise to sunset. And the eyes of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked and sowed fig leaves. Now, what happened once they found out that they didn't die, and they began to know good and evil? They knew who was the liar. They knew that they had been lied to. Not by the serpent, because the serpent gave them wisdom of being as gods. And don't say you don't want to be as gods, because according to Genesis 1:27, you were made to be in the image and after the likeness of these Elohim. According to the Adamites here, were made to be like gods. So why is it deception to be as gods? And the serpent gave them the information to say, this being is lying to you. He doesn't want you to be as these gods. He doesn't want you to know good and evil, because you're going to see that some beings are lying to you. You're going to see evil, you're going to see good, and you're going to acknowledge yourself as a god. And this same Lord acknowledges it in Genesis 3:22. And the Lord God said, behold. He was stunned. This word behold is like, oh my gosh. Behold, the man is become as one of us. So he confirms what the serpent has said. Where and how was the deception that the entire religious world is claiming that this serpent being, this wise being, this one that healed the children of Israel, the people that claim to be students or followers of Moses? If you follow Moses, why aren't you using the symbol as a serpent that you find in the book of Exodus and in the book of Kings? You see it there, right? You'll find it also in Isaiah. In Exodus 4:3, it uses this serpent, right, as a medical symbol. Numbers actually 21:6, it says, and the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and much people of Israel died. And it says, pray unto the Lord that he take away the serpents for us. Make thee a fiery serpent. That's a seraphim. He made a fiery serpent, and Moses made a serpent of brass. He used the serpent as a symbol of healing. If you go to Numbers 21, let's go there. We have a lot to cover out of it, right? So let's go to 21:6, right? Because there's still no devil there. It says, and the Lord sent, right? That says, and therefore the people came to Moses and said, we have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord and against thee. Pray unto the Lord that he take away the serpents from us. And Moses prayed. And the Lord said unto Moses, make thee a fiery serpent. So the religious Lord, or the Lord of the Jews, the Lord of the Christians, the Lord of or Allah of the Muslims, because they acknowledge Musa in their Quran. So Muslims, stop acting like you have a different book. You took your prophets out of the book. All of the prophets are there. All of the stories are there. So, and your Quran tells you to, if you find any doubt in the Quran, go to the book before it. So you have to come to this book, the Torah of the Jews, that you claim was, right, mistranslated, and words were moved from their places, right? You claim that, but you use the New Testament, and the Injil is no words moved from the Injil. So that speaks for itself. However, this verse speaks that this Lord of the religious doctrine make thee a fiery serpent and set it upon a pole. That should be your symbol of all the religious world. Why aren't you using that symbol? And this word there, when you look at it, right? The symbol, the Strong's number is Nehushtan. It's 5174. And the Chaldean is used as a brass copper. It's used there. John 3:14, and Moses lifted up the serpent. When you read the book of John, it makes reference to the serpent again as a symbol to be lifted up. As Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up. This is your book. It's not coming from Deuce Y. York. It's not coming from Dr. Mal. It is coming from Dr. Malachi York, making it clear, but you can't, you have to address what's in your book and not deny the facts, because you won't get past this spell of sleep that you're under, where the devil has made the gods look like evil and the evil one has made themselves look as gods. That's why we made reference and spoke about the different beings who were cast down and came to the planet. And when they came to the planet, as it says in the book of Enoch, a group of extraterrestrials known as the Bain Elohim, known as the Gibor, known as the Nephilim, known as the Anakim, when they came to the planet, the evil ones passed themselves off as gods. And they were lying and using manipulative and deceptive tactics to keep the Adamites under their control. Not you. You were not African. You were not under their rule. You as an African was not you were not worshiping the gods of the Mesopotamians. I'm saying the serpent didn't lie. The serpent was a being who was looked upon as a wise being in this text. The devil, as you know it, was not found until you get to chapter 17 of the book of Leviticus. And we're going to go there, right? Let's get to the book of, the book of Leviticus, chapter 17. Let's go there. The word Sa'ir is there. 7:17 or 17:7. Actually, 17:7. This is where you first find the word devil. If you're coming in late or you're coming in just tuning in, let me say that we are speaking about this character in the beginning and these various creatures of the book that the religious world acknowledges or accepts, and the very extraterrestrial beings that you find in here. 17:7. And ye shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils. This word devil is Sa'ir. It is the name of a goat man. Look up that word. Sa'ir. Can someone find it? It means hairy. It's the same word used for Esau. When you look up the Strong's number, Esau number, right? Let me pull this up real quick. For those that have their Strong's Concordance, for those Sabaeans and Nuwapians that are in the group, pull up if you can, right? Pull up that word Sa'ir and type it in. I can't type it in, but I can explain it. Type it in the group for the people, right? To see how this word devil is not used in Genesis. It's used as this word devil or Satan is not used in the book of Genesis. Sa'ir is used, or satire is in Isaiah 13:21 as well. Let's go there with satire, right? Sa'ir, this is it. I have it right here in front of me. Thank you. 81:63. In the 17:7, it says, and they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils. This word Sa'ir is shaggy. This word Sa'ir is not even doesn't make reference to any snake. It doesn't make reference to any serpent. It is in reference to a mountain hairy he-goat. It's the same picture when you look at the shaggy goat of the goat of Mendez, this half hermaphrodite being, right? This half hermaphrodite being that has a goat hair on his front. He's standing there with his hand up, one hand down. He has breasts. He has hairy legs. This is the same creature that you see here in Genesis in Leviticus 17. This is where you find the word devil. The word devil is not in Genesis. This being could not have been as bad as they say, because how did he get in the garden? How was he able to understand exactly what this Lord was saying? Was he of the seraphim? You have two types of beings in Genesis, in the biblical text. You have seraphim and cherubim. The seraphim comes from the word seraph, which means burning or fiery. You'll find that in Deuteronomy 18:15. You'll also find it in Isaiah 6:2, where it speaks about seraphs, translated from the word sarafaf, which means fiery copper color, and is used 3 times in the book of Numbers, 21:6, as we just read, 21:8, and also Deuteronomy 8:15 and Isaiah 6:2. Seraph are supposed to be the good beings. Cherubim are the disagreeable or negative ones. And the reason the Father points this out is because when you see in the book of Genesis, this Lord, to keep this being, once Adam and Eve found out that this Lord had lied, because the serpent had this Nakash, or Nin-Gizida is his actual name under the Sumerian text, and the Egyptian text, he has an Egyptian name as a wise being. In the Babylonian text and the Chaldean Nineveh tablets, he's known as Nin-Gizida, Nin, which is Nin-Gish-Zida. You see this being, he has a turban on. They have literally his depiction in Babylon. This calling him a wise one. This being was amongst the Elohim. He was amongst the group. This is why he was in the garden, or the habitat, which was actually in Qatar. The Father points this out in one of the updates. He says the garden was in Saudi Arabia, in that Middle Eastern area where you find close to Babylon, Iran, and Iraq. And this is where the experiment took place. But these deities that came down, this Nin-Gizida, this Zahutwi, or this serpent, mistranslated or classified as devil, classified as Satan, which was a misclassification, right? When you read it, you'll see that he was amongst these group, and this is why he knew what this being understood. He said, well, he knows that you're not going to die, because they were in conflict with each other. One was a group of seraphim, one was a group of cherubim. The Lord was over the cherubim. How do you know this? Because he placed 2 cherubim at the garden with flaming swords, right? How was he over them? He was the anointed cherub that's spoken of in the book of Ezekiel. When you read the book of Ezekiel, right? Let's go there real quick. The anointed cherub in Ezekiel's chapter 28, verse 1 through 26. Let's pull that up real quick so you'll see who this cherubim was, and how this Lord of Genesis, who was actually the liar, when they found, and Adam and Eve found out they wouldn't die in that day, that they became as gods. And it was like, wow, he was lying. The serpent was like, I'm trying to tell you that. And this Lord was like, I'm going to make everyone hate you for this. That's why he said, I'm going to put enmity in the genes of the woman and in the serpent seed. So now it's the women and the descendants of the Adamites across the planet that has came out against this serpent, this wise one, whenever he pops up, whenever he incarnates, whenever he comes to give you wisdom, whenever he comes to teach you, whenever he comes to wake you up to the lying gods of the religious world that wants sacrifices, that wants blood, that wants your soul, and pass themselves off as your Lord, the one that made a covenant with Abraham to get foreskin and flesh from the penises of boys and the animals, and sacrificing your children. This Nin-Gizida, this wise serpent, with wisdom of 76 trillion years, when he came to awaken the seeds of the planet of the lying Lord Enlil, who was angry at this serpent for telling the creation that they can be as gods. Enlil wasn't pleased with that, because he didn't want these Adamites to have the information that the gods had. And this is why the world now, I said when I pointed out in the very beginning of this lecture, why is it that there's a unanimous decision on who the devil is? How can all of you all agree that this is the one serpent that was responsible for the fall of man? How could, if no other doctrine, if this Lord confounded your language in Genesis 10 and 11, and he was responsible for confusing everyone, you're not confused about who the so-called devil is. You're not confused that this serpent didn't lie. You're not confused about that. The world saying, well, that's the devil. You say, well, who's the devil in the garden? The devil in the garden. You, for some reason, there's a programming because this Lord made all of you all think that this serpent was the devil, because he exposed this Lord the same way he's exposing this Lord now, the one that has you under a spell. Then get Zidda, the Zahutwi, our Father in flesh, who is incarnated to teach you all again about these fallen beings, these cherubim who have come, and the anointed cherub, as we read in Ezekiel's chapter 28, you'll find out who he is and how he's passed himself off as a god. How do you know that? Well, who else can lead cherubim and place them and authorize them and command them to guard the gate, unless it's their head, unless it's their anointed? They won't listen to anyone else, right? If you say, I want security to stand at the gate and guard my house, you have to be the authority over this group, right? So when you see Ezekiel chapter, the correct chapter 28, sorry, I said 48. Correction. Chapter 28, verse 1, verse 26, right? When you read it, it says, he called him the angel of light, right? It says, the word of the Lord said again unto me, saying, Son of man, saying unto the prince of Tyrus, thus said the Lord, this Yahweh of the Elohim, because thy heart is lifted up and thou hast said, I am Yahweh, I am an Elohim. This is the Elohim of Genesis. He lifted himself up and said he's an Elohim. What did he do? He sit in the seat of the Elohim. In the midst of the sons, yea, thou art a man and not an Elohim. Thou set thy heart as the heart of the Elohim. Behold, that are wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that there can't hide from thee. Let's go down. It's in verse 14. It says, thou art the anointed cherub. The anointed cherub is who is the anointed cherub? This is this being of light and fire. The same being that with the cherubim are the ones that are responsible for the fire of the sacrifice. This same Lord was responsible for requesting the sacrifice from Cain and Abel. This was Enlil. This was Nanar, their seed. And this Nin-Gizida being, this of Enki's son, was of the Seraphim. But they switched the story to make you begin to worship your Lord as a God, when he actually is the being that gives you the hell, that is responsible for the burning, that is responsible for the cannibalism, that is responsible for the covenants of sacrifices, that is responsible for you cooking animals and human beings in the book of Leviticus, chapter 10, chapter 1 through 10, chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6. It's all speaking about a Lord that's requesting blood. He did it in the book of in the first few chapters when he requested Cain and Abel to present the best of offering, and he accepted the blood sacrifice. This same Lord lied to these beings and said, don't touch the fruit, because he placed the evil in the tree. This is the same cherub, this anointed cherub that brought evil to the planet. How do you know it? Well, he put it in a tree. It wasn't the serpent. The serpent couldn't have been a devil, because he didn't introduce evil. Show me where evil was introduced in the tree. Show me where the serpent planted a tree of evil. Show me where the serpent introduced murder. Show me where the serpent introduced rape. Show me where the serpent introduced killing of animals. Show me where the serpent introduced deception. Show me where he introduced lies. It wasn't him. It was the Lord that you're looking at. In Genesis 2:7, he said, in the day you eat thereof, you're going to surely die. And he wasn't all knowing because he didn't tell him about this serpent being. He didn't tell him that he didn't know that they were going to not listen to him. He wasn't all knowing. The religious world gave him the characteristic of an all knowing being, because when you read Ezekiel 28, that's what he set himself up to do. So he made the world think he was all knowing, all wise. And you ask a person, did this Lord know that Adam was going to fail the test? Yes, he knew. So why did he test him? Oh, he wanted to see. Then he didn't know. You don't want to see something if you already know what you're going to see. You don't have a desire to see it because you already preconceived it before the creation of the universe, before the creation of man, before the creation of the planet. You would know that they were going to fail. You would know that your creation would become bad. It would be no reason for you to become what? Repenting in the book in Genesis chapter 6. Why would you repent for making man if you already knew how they were going to turn out, if you were all knowing? That's the characteristic that the religious world has lied to you about. Muslims, Christians, and Jews, they've all been deceived to make you accept a Lord that's been lying from the very beginning. This is why your prayers aren't getting answered. This is why you keep getting abused. This is why you have the riches that you're supposed to have. This is why they gave you the religious doctrine and stole all of your gold, stole your soul, stole your resources, stole your lands, took you to other places to build their societies, to build their environments. They placed themselves over you and made you worship their images, and you trust them. And this is why you have nothing, because this same Lord has been lying from the very beginning under the pretext of religious doctrine. And every time this wise being comes to teach you, you reject them, because you are under a deep spell of fear, and you're afraid that something's going to happen to you if you question his authority. And it literally tells you to question. And this is not the only being or these different type of extraterrestrial beings. There's groups of them that have come to the planet and have passed themselves off as gods. And you can find it. Let's read it. And literally, they can rape and do all the things that they evil, and the religious world will justify their God doing whatever they want them to do. That's how evil he has made his creation. The religious world, our people have accepted evil done by this Lord. They will say, well, he can drown people. He could do that. If you don't listen to him, he can plague you. He can send diseases. He can send you into bondage. The Hebrew Israelites will say, well, we're in bondage because we didn't listen to the Lord. Well, how can you not listen to the Lord? How is it possible for this being, if he's all powerful, everything he says comes into existence? The Muslims say, kun fayakun, be and it is. If he says one thing, there's nothing in the universe that can rebel against it. So how can you not listen to this being if he's all powerful? They have been lying. Let's address these characters in Genesis as we move forward, right? Genesis chapter 6. We're going to see how many of these species, extraterrestrial beings, you have to be prepared for the invasion of these beings and the unfolding, because they're going to make themselves known to you, whether you like it or not. It doesn't matter whether you have faith in whatever. It just doesn't matter, because you're indispensable to them. You're not that significant to them in their existence. They don't see you as such. They see you as food. They see you as beings, a species that wastes resources, that poisons your own environment, that hates your own people, that judges and doesn't spread the wealth and the substance that's been given to you. You won't equally distribute it to the people of the planet. You will destroy your own ozone layer and then complain that it's too hot. You will destroy it and then try to fix it up, patch it up later, and send things. You're doing this to your own, and you expect that this Lord God is going to treat you the way that you deserve to be treated, when you don't treat yourself with any kind of love and respect and integrity amongst your own human species, amongst your own kind. Muslims will kill Muslims. Jews will kill Jews. Christians will kill Christians. Judge them, treat them negative, give them shame, give them guilt, all of these negative attributes, and then tell you to go pray to a God. Hopefully he doesn't get angry and kindle his fire against you and burn you in hell. That's an evil manipulation, and it's an evil doctrine. And you're going to see how it was introduced into the planet. You read it in the book of Enoch, and you also read it in here when they came down and raped the Adamites and introduced their evil seed. And it says in Genesis 6, verse 1, and it came to pass when men, this word is Adamites, when the men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and the Lord and daughters were born unto them. This is so they don't tell you there's a species that's missing. The feminine or the female is missing in here. When men began to multiply on the face of the earth and daughters were born, men didn't multiply by themselves, obviously. Where are the women at? They say Adam and Eve had Cain and Abel. Where are the women? The women were the evil coming out of the land of Nod. The land of Nod is where Cain found his wife from, which was a species that no one knows where they came from, a whole group of killers. So the Lord, not only did he make a killing seed coming out of Cain, because Cain became a killer, for some reason he learned that from somewhere. Maybe he learned it from the Lord killing animals to make the clothes for the sheep, right? Did this Lord, by introducing evil in the tree, did he inadvertently teach his creation evil? Yes. Why would you bring evil to the planet and it wasn't here? In paradise, why would you bring it inside of paradise, knowing an all-knowing God, knowing they were going to partake of the fruit? That doesn't make sense. This is the type of Lord you're worshiping. We have to wake up from this spell. If you don't, you're going to be lost for an eternity. Your soul will be lost like our ancestors were lost because they converted to these doctrine and gave them soul. They're depending on you to wake up. You have to wake up, and the time is now. They don't tell you where the women come from. But they don't. So it says it in the very first verse, and daughters were born unto them. Verse 2. So that's two species there. The Adamites began to multiply on the face of the earth. Daughters, right, were born unto them, right? Then verse 2, that the sons or Bain Elohim saw these daughters. So these daughters were obviously the daughters of killers, because Cain and Abel were not, or let's say Adam and Eve, are not recorded as having daughters. The only woman other than Cain and other than Eve you find is in the land of Nod. So these daughters had to come out of the land of Nod, obviously, unless there's misinformational stories about these daughters that you don't know where they are, and that makes the biblical text incomplete. Therefore, it's not holy and it's not all wise, right, and exact, because there's missing information. Pick one of the two. Now, the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them. It doesn't say asked in their hand of marriage. It doesn't say married them, took them wives of which they chose, not consented to. There's a difference. So this is Bain Elohim, the sons of God, the sons of the Elohim. That's a group of beings who were the descendants of the Elohim that came down to the planet and looked at them physically. These are physical beings. These are extraterrestrial beings. It doesn't matter if you don't, if it doesn't matter if you like it or not, if it goes against your religious doctrine. The facts are the facts. This is what we're interested in. That's it. These are people are interested in these facts. Now, right? Let me here. Okay. Let me know. Okay, cool. So here we go. So it says, now he raped them. This is understood. These extraterrestrial beings raped the daughters of men, raped the daughters of the Adamites, right? They were fair, took them, all of what they chose. The book of Enoch speaks about it in chapter 10. Look it up. It speaks about what they gave them, how they were having sex with these. Some of them were 9-10 feet tall, having sex with these Adamites, destroying their womb. Some of them were eating them afterwards. It's disgusting, the type of behavior that these beings brought to this planet, that and the descendants of these cherubim, of this Lord, and their families of these extraterrestrial, evil, wicked beings that had sex with the Adamites. That wasn't you. Stop thinking you're of Adam, first of all, and you won't have a problem. Once you separate yourself from this species, it becomes clear that you were already in Africa. You were not a part of this creation. This is 6,000 years ago. All biblical scholars know it. All Muslim scholars understand that these texts come from older texts. Most of your archaeologists know it. They do the excavations over in Mesopotamia. They were doing it in Babylon. In the war in Iraq, this is why ISIS had destroyed most of the temples. Look up, ISIS destroyed the temples in Mesopotamia because they were finding out where their gods had come from. They found out they were of the Anunnaki. And when they came to the planet, they started raping the Adamites, this red, ruddy race, the Adam or Edom, which is red or ruddy, is not a description of the African people. This is a group that is only 6,000 years old. And these beings, when they incarnated, they saw this creation. The Enlil seed started raping them and having sex with them. And it says that verse 3, and this Lord said, one of the Yahweh of the Elohim said, my spirit shall not always strive with the Adamites. So they already knew that they weren't going to be with the Adamites the entire time. It says, will not always strive with the Adamites, for that he is also flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. So they had life, and then their lives began to become more and more live less longer, eventually to where they will die out. And that's what you're seeing. The Adamites are dying out. They're not living to 120 years no more. They're not even living to the 920 that Adam, or as you see, the descendancy of the Adamites year after year, or generation after generation, they became the less time they lived. 900, then 800, then 700, then 600, then down to 120, as you read in verse 3. And eventually now the average lifespan of the Adamites, or the Caucasus, or that species that was bred, is now 60, 50. Now they're not even having sex or breeding because they're using this. They need the genetic breed because they don't have the reproductive capabilities anymore, because as species come in, some come out. A lot of times when you look at the planet, you'll see endangered species live for a few thousand years and then they die off. There's a list of endangered species that are going out, and there's a list of endangered species that will live and then they go out, and the last two are found. They say, well, they died off in the 1930s. There's a list of them: saber-toothed tiger, dodo bird, passenger pigeons, what else? The panda bear is supposed to be going out. Human beings is many, and human beings are of the animal species. The Adamites are of that species of this 6,000-year-old creation. This Lord says, listen, my spirit shall not always strive with these beings, right? And it goes on in verse 4, where it introduces another extraterrestrial group, another species known as the Gibor, or the giants, giant men. In Strong's number 1368, you'll see it. And they were giants in the earth in those days. And also after that, one species. And also after that, after the giants, this is your fourth species. I hope you're keeping notes of the species that these are extraterrestrial creatures. That's the title of the room. You'll see it. So we're in the fifth one in Genesis 4. They were giants in the earth. After that, also, when the Bain Elohim came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children. This was another group of Elohim seeing another group of the daughters. It's not the same one in Genesis chapter 2. Genesis verse 2, chapter 6. The chapter 6, verse 2, they took them and had sex. They raped these beings. In this verse, another time, they came in unto the daughters of men and bare children to them, and the same became mighty men of renown, another species. So this is the fifth, sixth, and seventh. The fifth is the sons of God. Again, another incident. Came in unto the daughters of men, bear children. That's 7. The children are the progeny of this group. That's another species, a combination of the cherubim, or the fallen beings, with the Adamites. Their children is a sub-race, or demigods, they're known as, and they became men, mighty men, men of renown. They're introducing another group, the men of renown, it says, which were of old, men of renown. There you have it, 7 species. This being the Lord now comes forth, it says, and this Elohim saw that the wickedness of man, the wickedness of the Adamites, look up the word man there, was great in the earth. How on earth in 6 chapters did the whole earth become wicked by these groups? Wicked? Who's responsible for that? People say, oh, the serpent. No. The serpent said, when you eat thereof, your eyes will be open, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. This evil was introduced by this Lord. And the reason he knew evil is because he introduced it. The reason why these Adamites became evil is because their sons raped the creation and introduced their evil seed into the descendants, as we just read in the previous verse, and bare children. So these children were evil because of their fathers and the daughters who were the killers of the land of Nod, their whole descendancy was evil. This Lord out of Enlil, who was the anointed cherub, and Ezekiel's 28 acknowledged this evil because he introduced it to the evil, and it says it in Isaiah. You'll read it in Isaiah chapter, I think 47, if I'm not mistaken. He says, right, where he introduces evil, creates evil, was great in the earth in every imagination. He didn't say partial of his imagination or a portion of his mind was evil. Every imagination of the thoughts, not of just his mind, but the heart. His heart, that means the passion. The evil was in the heart of the being. When you have evil in your heart, that means all your actions are evil. And this is why when you look on a planet, you see that there's beings that are constantly doing evil. Always. Bombs, killing, murder, raping, slavery, deception, political games, demarginalization, discrimination, hate, enmity. This Lord introduces enmity to the world. All of the evils that you're trying to say, you're trying to find God to help you to save yourself from, this Lord is responsible for introducing it to. So you have been deceived. You're praying to the same devil that is giving you the hell that you're trying to run from. And this is the face that they claim are the one that makes you laugh, the same that makes you cry. One that you praying for paradise is the one that's going to give you hell. They introduced it into their system. Now, I'm not done, because if you want to be of the Adamites, then you have to be an evil race. You can't even put yourself in this book. You as an African, as a black, as a Nagardinat, no matter where you are on the planet, no matter what religious doctrine you claim to be a part of, no matter, you could be a convert, you could call yourself Muhammad Akbar for 30 years, it don't matter. You can't be accepted amongst this book, because unless you're saying that, man, you are an evil continuously. And I don't see our people doing evil continuously. I see you following a group of people that has been evil continuously. I see you trusting a group of beings that have been evil continuously. I see you converting to a religious doctrine that has made you evil continuously. I see you worshiping a being who has introduced evil continuously. But I don't see you as being evil continuously, not in your heart. Unless you pick up these religious doctrines and you work on their behalf, like the Moors did for the Arabs when they enslaved the Africans in the African slave trade, as we touched upon. And when you convert as a Christian minister, a Presbyterian, and you enslave your own race to have them worshiping the gods of foreigners that enslaved them, I see you picking up the evil intentions, and this is why the preachers and pastors, they're all falling apart. They're all being exposed. You don't find powerful mega churches no more, because no one is falling for the lies. They have been doing evil because they're following an evil race of beings that's responsible for it, but you're not a part of this, no matter how much you try to cry and pray and wear Hebrew Israelite garbs on the corner and yell and scream and hold up the Bible and use torment and guilt. You're using tactics of evil to try to have people fearful. It's not by love. No one converts to doctrine because of love. No one converts and accepts their God because you feel a sense of love when you open the church doors or the mosque doors. You feel acceptance. The women don't feel accepted in the religious Muslim community. They feel like they got to sit in the back. The blacks don't feel accepted because you don't see your face and the image of God on the walls. You see images of the Greeks and images of Romans and images of other races that you have to bow to and make yourself subservient to. So you don't feel the love there because you don't feel the connection like you do when you look at your grandmother or the ancestors of Africa and your Egyptian bloodline and you say, wow, look at the greatness. You don't feel that in these other racist doctrines. And this is why, because you're not of this seed. Stop doing it. Stop trying to perpetuate. Even if you say, okay, I'm not sure, stop doing it. It just doesn't make sense after 6,000 years. So what does this Lord do now when he finds out that these beings are evil continuously? Read it. It says, and it repented this Lord. Hold on. This being repents. Hold on now. Stop. He repents for what? He says, it repented the Lord that he made the Adamites on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. This being now, all of a sudden, after he introduces evil, after he introduces and breeds these descendants, started raping the creation and causing havoc and evil continuously and getting out of control and losing their minds by the wickedness behavior and sacrificing and eating animals, which and human beings in cannibalism practices that you find in Lamentations and in Deuteronomy and the book of Jeremiah 9:9. You'll see they sodden their children and cooked them and asked the woman to bring her son because she ate the son the previous day and she felt deprived because she didn't bring her son to cook it. It's in the book. It's not something somebody made up. They don't want you to see this because they never thought that someone would come and assist and to open your eyes up like our Heavenly Father has incarnated to do on this planet and give us these beautiful words to wake you up, right? When you see this and the Lord said, I will destroy man, why do you have to destroy man? That's how you know this being is evil. Well, all of a sudden, this is why the human beings behave the way that they behave, because they follow the practice of this Lord. Because you don't like something, because you repented for something, because you created something you're responsible for, you decided to do it. You're supposed to be all-knowing. You should have known not to create this human being in the first place. When you talked amongst the other gods, none of the other beings told you that these beings were going to become negative. No one of the gods of the all-knowing so-called beings from the heavens that you claim knows this merciful being informed you. If you create Adam, if you create the Adamites, you're going to have a problem. I foresee it. You got prophets that claim, Christian prophets all over Africa, I see what's going to take place in the year 2027. The so-called prophets can foresee things of the future, but you can't foresee what's going to happen in 3 chapters away from the creation. You in chapter 6, this happened in chapter 3. The creation happened in chapter 1. 5 chapters later, you didn't know that this creature was going to become evil. You didn't know that your own sons was going to come to the planet and start raping and robbing and causing havoc on the planet. You didn't know that. Where the only recourse you have is to destroy. What happened to the all-powerful knowing God that can snap his finger and make things grow? Snap his finger and let there be light. Snap your finger and remove evil. You don't find that there. This is why the religious world has been lying to you. They don't want you to know that. And the fact, this is why they attack our doctrine. They attack our Father in flesh. They do that because they don't want you to wake up, because once you wake up, their religious doctrine falls apart. Their control over you falls apart because they need your body. They need your katat because it is a transmitter. It receives information. And the moment you're able to receive the proper information that informs you, that brings you in a specific form, your time to rule again you will know that it's time for you to rule again. You'll know that you have your own gods. You'll know that it's time for you to be a part of your own nation. It's time for you to be a part of your own people. It's time for you to begin to reason again and not let people keep controlling you and allowing you to suffer. This is why when you see verse 7, this Lord says, I will destroy man who I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast. What did beast do to you? And the creeping thing. So now you're throwing a temper tantrum. You're a narcissist now. You don't want to destroy the evil tree. Think about this. If you're repenting for the evil and you know you brought it in the planet, why won't you just go destroy the tree that you planted? You literally planted a tree in the ground, grew it. You watered this plant. You placed evil in a seed. I said this before. The Father explains, you put evil inside a seed, all of the evil on the planet in a seed, put it in the ground and watched it grow. And then when human beings become evil, you want to destroy human beings. You want to destroy beasts. You want to destroy the creeping things of the planet. You want to destroy the fowl. You want to destroy everything on the planet because of the evil you committed. That is disgusting and it's wicked. And this is your God. This is your Lord. This is the Lord you want us to convert and pray and give our minds and body. Hey, let's move forward. I hope that's very clear. So this serpent being is not the one that you claim, right? Claim is the negative, the bad, the devil. Those are religious lies. Now we're going to move forward to the other species that they talk that's in this book that they don't want you to know about. Like what? We talked about the cherubim, right? So now we understand that this Lord is over the cherub. His name is Enlil. And you go to episode 4. Also, the books that I'm speaking about, you can email me. You have to reiterate, this doctrine is redundant. You have to keep being reminded because you're being distracted from the world. I'm reading because there was darkness before light, and I feel better meditating. Okay, that's great. Thank you for I'm reading some of the comments. And you see, we turned up today, and because we got a lot to cover, and the lies have to be you're being distracted. Don't be distracted. Stop being distracted. So try not to be distracted. Try to fight this. They try to get your mind. They're trying to maintain control in the scroll, right? The scrolling. That's what I mean when they maintain control in the scrolling. Try not to get distracted and get into these actual facts, because this is these extraterrestrial beings, right, that are in the biblical text, in the Quranic text, have an agenda, and their agenda is to, when it's time for destruction, they want you to be a part of it. They want more of you a part of their harvest. They want you a part of their they want their soul. They won't have a soul in the afterlife. Your soul is your vehicle to transport you to the higher abodes, the higher realms. They will stay pretty much in the lower abodes. We talked about this in episode 3, the spiritual abode, right? So if you are if you have a soul and a part, you have a divine mind, which is the reasoning mind, right? They want to maintain control of that, because when they pass on, they can feed off of your soul emotions, which they're doing to our ancestors in the other world right now. Our ancestors are being tormented because of what these beings have done in their lives in the past. A lot of our African ancestors across the globe, diaspora, melanated beings, the supreme beings of the planet, we died under the control of other races, and they took their souls with them in their death, and they're emotionally in a state of limbo. So right now they're crying out because they can't ascend the way that you can ascend, and they're depending on you to wake up now in order to feed them this information through your genetics. As you wake up, as you feel your DNA, these are DNA explosions, and you're waking up your whole genetic line, and you begin to feel all of the things that they felt. Imagine what they was feeling without this information, without access to this doctrine, without the father not incarnating. So he had to incarnate in this day and time in order for you to save a race, our entire race bloodline, not just right now in the immediate beings that are alive. All of our bloodline is dependent upon this being, the Heavenly Father in flesh, to give us these actual facts and information, to wake us up, to remove us from this is another publication. This is a actual fact. There's a list. I went over several of them. This is Munmak'u Wu Pa Tamem Mokye, Freaks and the Perfect Creature. These are the creatures that he speaks about, these freaks of creation that you find out in the text, that we just went over 7 species in one chapter, right? Please share the everywhere, because people need to hear this, right? Welcome to my TikTok family as well. I just launched on TikTok Live, so they're tuning in as well. So I appreciate that. We have to reach the world with these actual facts, because the more and more the people wake up, the more and more distractions they're going to say, oh, they're waking up. There's more distractions they're going to give you. More things about people's lives, so-called celebrities' lives and their love life, and the football games and basketball games and stuff that's been going on, slave behavior that's been taking place. All that is slavery camps. They used to put people of color in these particular arenas and watch them run up and down with the court with a rubber ball, right? In boxer shorts and tank tops, smack each other on the butt to see if you can stick a rubber ball into a round ring. That's not entertainment. That's not intellectually advanced enough for you to keep your attention for so long. So they have to create sensationalism around it. Yeah, some talent there. I guess it's talent to, yeah, I guess so, to run a rubber ball from one line to the next. And like, I guess I'm not sure if it's entertainment. It's not entertainment to us, the beings from your descendants. You have to be intellectually stimulated because your conscious mind has the ability to absorb massive amounts of information from the mental reservoir, from the mental abode. So it's not entertainment to you. You need these actual facts to stimulate your growth. You're physically grown. Yeah, most of us are grown. You won't grow taller than you are. You won't, maybe you gain weight, maybe lose weight, however, but your spirit, your mind, your body will continuously expand. And in order to exist in the spiritual abode in a way that will advance you in this next dimension that we're shifting in, check out the episode Dimensional Shift, right? You'll see that you have to be fed mentally and you won't be caught up in being lured into the mind or the pathway of these beings, these six ether extraterrestrial negative beings, reptilian species that are not responsible for your creation. They're responsible for the Adamites' creation. So we're going to look at these other species that's spoken of in the text. Right there in the text, you'll see it. Now, we talked about the giants. These giants are in Genesis chapter 6. We talked about the Nephilim. This is another species of giants. These species of giants were actually eating eating people in the land of the Canaanites' land when Moses sent the 12 spies up in there to see, and he talked about the Anakim eating up the inhabitants. So they were flesh eaters. They were involved with cannibalism in various chapters where they eat the specific meat, sons and daughters, and we're gonna go over those texts. You'll find it in Deuteronomy 28:53. It says, "And thou shalt eat the fruit of thy own body, the flesh of thy sons, and the flesh of thy daughters, which the Lord God have given thee." So this Lord, this Enlil being, looked at these Adamites as food as well, animals as well, because when they incarnated, this was a harvest. The same way we talked about, we looked at a farm. The Father speaks about this in the actual fact called Pahasad. Ask about it, email me, and we'll give you access to it. The harvest, they talked about the last days and the harvest thrust in thy sickle. These are the same Anunnaki beings that made themselves your gods of religion. It says in there, Deuteronomy 28:53, let me read it again. "And thou shalt eat the fruit of thy own bodies, the flesh of thy," right? This is a commandment from their Lord. This is a commandment from their Yahweh. "The flesh of thy own sons and thy daughters, which the Lord have given thee." In Kings, 2 Kings, verse 6, chapter 28, verse 29. "And the king said unto her," this woman went to a king. The king asked her, "What aileth thee?" And she answered, "This woman said unto me, Give thy son that we may eat him today." The word eat is akal there. The same word eat of the fruit. It means to consume, to take in physically, not metaphorically. Don't let religious people try to lie because they want to hold on to this demonic doctrines of cannibalism, and they don't want to accept that they've been deceived. Like, we all have to accept it. Everyone has to accept we've been lied to. It's okay. You accepted Santa Claus was a lie at some point. You knew that your mother and your father bought you the toys, right? It took you a minute to get over it. You'll get over it. That we've been lied to. It's maybe a little bit more difficult because you're grown and you think you're so intelligent that you can't be lied to, right? But that's what happens. It says it in this book, 2 Kings. "Give thy son unto me that we may eat him today, and we eat my son tomorrow." So it literally says in verse 29, "So we boiled my son and did eat him. And I said unto her the next day, Give thy son that we may eat him. And she hath hid her son." So they literally ate the woman's son that this Lord, this your Lord of the religion, Muslims, Christians, Jews, doesn't matter, whatever sect, doesn't matter. He commanded they eat the fruit of thy own womb, and they ate this, her son boiled him. Do you know the death by boiling a child? And if you justify that, you're just as sick and evil and wicked as the person that done it here. If you're a religious person and you're listening to this and you accept this doctrine, you accept that this Lord is okay to boil children, then you should expect and accept everything that these beings do to you in the last days and time. Because you're part of the problem if you're teaching our people that it's okay for a Lord of any religious doctrine, right, to boil and write it in their book as an acceptable doctrine. Therefore, it says that we may eat. In Ezekiel 5:10, it says, therefore the father shall eat the sons in the midst of thee. This is a commandment. This hurts listening to it, because on the outside looking in, as your mind wakes up and you become a Nuwapian, thinking in spiritual science, right? Nuwapu, or the science of Nuwapu, as a Sabaean, which are the record keepers. We keep the records of our ancestral line that have come from the stars. That's what we are. And we deal with the spiritual science that reasons, not belief. We don't believe things. Our Father said, stop believing just what anyone gives you. Someone gives you a book, open your mouth, and you just take it in, and it's poison. And you trying to figure out why your life is messed up, why your stomach hurts, why you get headaches, why you are always sick, why you always in a negative mood, why when you go to church, you come out, you're not feeling as good as you should feel. Right? Because, or mosque, or you convert to these religious doctrines because you've been given poison and you don't know it. And the poison is in these texts because they're accepting cannibalism in this book. In Ezekiel 5:10, it says, therefore the father shall eat the sons in the midst of thee, and thou shalt eat their fathers. The sons will eat the fathers. This is cannibalism. Canaan bow in the land of Canaan. The Canaanites who were cursed. You'll find that in Genesis also, where the Canaanites practice ritualistic bestiality, ritualistic cannibalism. It describes them as the seed or descendants of Ham, who were cursed with the disease of leprosy that turned their skin pale and boils and diseases all over their bodies, hair to become flank, right, scales and spots, and they were quarantined because they would pass the disease off. And Abraham told his sons, don't mix your seed with the Canaanites. And this cannibal was given this sacrifice to Baal, who was their lord, Enlil. Enlil was a storm god, the responsible for the destruction, the one that repented for making man or breeding this man, right? And the descendants, and he brought the destruction to these Enlil, to the descendants of the Adamites. And it says, right? Let me go to some other areas of cannibalism since we're on a topic. Lamentations 4:10. Y'all can follow along with the text so you know it's there. Right? I shouldn't be the only one. We shouldn't be the only ones. This is your responsibility as well, because you taught it and you converted to it. Now you have to wake people up to the fact. So when you email, you'll be able to get the information in the book so you can have them for yourself. Go to the book of Lamentations. Lamentations in 1185. Go to the book of Lamentations, chapter 4, verse 10. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for everyone. Okay, let me go back real quick. Let me pay attention to the chat. Right? Oh wow. Rahubat, I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you all. Those contributions are well appreciated. Right? And I appreciate you all for doing that. You can all join too. To become a member of the Nubian Nation is just a $2 donate. If you all do it, it's fine, because it's preparing us to set up the site so you'll be able to vote, because we're going to be voting soon, and then we're going to be launching that website soon. So you see with the brother Levi Angelin, sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. He became a member. You all can become members or supporters of the Nubian Nation, because this is what this is our job, and this is what I do for you every day. This is my job. I don't have any other job. So any support will make sure we move forward in growth, and all of this is going to assist in freeing our father from where he is, because he's waiting for us to do that. And I spoke about this in several episodes, and we're going to address that soon. But let's go to Lamentations 4:10. So I appreciate you as always, y'all. You making that contribution. So 4:10, right? It says the hands of the pitiful women. Yes, thank you. Everyone can do that. It's just $2. That's 20 dimes, right? 8 quarters. You got 8 quarters in your couch. It's nothing to do. The hands of the pitiful women have sodden their own children. Do you know what sodden? Someone look up the word sodden, right? What does the word sodden mean, right? The word sodden is literally cooking, right? It means to cook your own children. It says have sodden their own children, right? They have, what does it says? They were their meat. This is sickness. Ask a question. Okay, I'm paying attention to the chat. After about an hour and a half, we go into the chat and I pick up a few of the questions. It says, question, Rahul Baduswa, you're glad to have you here. Let me back up. So, right. If I may ask, does the book of Enoch come from the Ethiopian Bible? Okay. And if this Bible people are using is complete, what about the Ethiopian? Okay. So no, none of the Bibles are complete, because this affirmation is beyond disturbing and insane. I know. And it's crazy. Beyond disturbing for you to say in your book, a holy, so-called holy book, that it's okay to cook your children, their own children, that they be their meat in the destruction of the daughter of my people. In Leviticus 26 as well, and Deuteronomy 28. There's no complete Bible, because the Bible didn't come as a complete book in the first place. It wasn't a book that came down. People under the assumption that the God said, here, this is the holy book as a Bible. No, there were books scattered over a specific period of times that were brought together by 2 councils that agreed to accept specific books and take certain books out. I think the Ethiopian Bible has 88 books, if I'm not mistaken. I know it for 88 books. The Catholic Bible has 72 books. The King James Version has 66 books. So there's many books that weren't put in. If you look at it, it's a conglomeration of books over a period of years. So whatever books didn't agree with the political system and what they wanted individuals to learn at that time, then they would just leave the book out. And Christianity was just reintroduced into Ethiopia, brought back into Africa from Alexandria, right? Which is Egypt, from the Greeks and the Romans. So it wasn't necessarily a book of holy, like they don't have any original text. Again, like we spoke about in several of the previous publications, right? Was it completed? Oh, was it compiled? Is that completed or compiled? Oh, corrupt. Sorry, the screen is kind of bright. So it looks, oh, was it corrupted? Yes. It's corrupted the moment you can't find the original to compare it to. It's just no way, because any corrupt man, the moment man introduces, go check out if you can check out, for some reason, I'm having a hard time seeing the chat. I see it now, the word. Go to the last 3 episodes, and you'll see how we covered where the books that you have, the modern day Bibles, come from. The script, the text, what books was used, the oldest books, the codex that they have, the where they are kept, and if any of them the original, you'll find out that they're not. And because they're not original, they already have acknowledged that there's so many mistakes. There was correctors of the correctors. They found out there was grammar mistakes in the text. They hinged on the argument that the book was holy from the what do you call it? The Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls are fragmented. Let's say most complete is the book of Isaiah. They're all fragmented. So no book is complete. They haven't had any findings anywhere to corroborate any of the stories in extra biblical or extra Quranic text itself. So it's not that it's corrupted, it's just not original, therefore it can't be authentic. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. The Nag Hammadi found in Ethiopia in 1845. So it's not necessarily that they are corrupted, because to say they're corrupted means that they had an original, someone found the original and corrupted the original. Then that would give credence to the fact that they have an original. What they have are copies of copies. So the moment you copy something and you're not copying it word for word, right, then it becomes corrupted in any language over any amount of time. Now, the further it goes into the time span, it becomes more corrupt and therefore really unreliable. And this is why you have revisions. If you correctly done it the first time, like there's 5 different translations of the Quran, there's many different versions of the Bible. The Bible is one of the most popularly translated books in over hundreds of languages. And in those languages, it's impossible to translate a word from one language to another language and get the same meaning from the original oldest language or older language in another language, is because the meanings are different. And that's how the word God became synonymous with a Caucasoid image of a being with a long white beard, white robe, white hair, because the Germans introduced their concept of God in the Ufala Bible, and in that the character of their God was introduced, not the character from the Genesis story. The word God came from Odin or Woden, which is a being of the Nordic race or Nordic culture, who had a wife by the name of Frieg and a son by the name of Thor. And they, in their conversion from the Romans, wanted to convert Europe to the newfound Christianity that was introduced by Paul, right? A self-appointed disciple who brought stories of this bar Jesus, not the original, not the one from Egypt, but their own image or their own character of this Yahshua of 2,000 years ago, right? And the Romans and their persecution of this new doctrine, they let up off of the persecution and allowed it into this political system. And then that created the Holy See. And in that Holy See superiority Roman Empire, they wanted to convert the Germans. And in converting the Germans to this doctrine, the Germans didn't want to give, it's difficult to convert a culture to another religion without them bringing over their true indigenous practices. So the Germans said, if we have a translated Bible in German, we're going to use our concept of God. That's what, yes, Enki, the serpent is Enki's son. Ningizida, the son of Enki and Damkina. That's who this being is. Now, to answer your question, it's difficult to bring for an entire culture who've been practicing the Nordic culture for thousands of years, hundreds of years, to drop it and pick up a Bible. No, they said, we're going to bring our God into the book. And that's how this word God got into the language. The etymological word, not, and Gad as well, came from the Hebrew word Gad. However, the word God as a word in English, the etymological root, you'll see it comes from Woden or Odin, right? Woden Daeg literally is named after this being. And so it's corrupted if you're reading it in a language other than what the original was written in. And because the original can't be found, what you have is a copy of stories of individual of events that someone was writing down as a third person. Because you have to know that in order to write even the Genesis story in chapter 3, there was another person recording who was saying what. You got me. So if you're saying that someone is watching the Lord walking in the cool of the day, and the Lord walking in the cool of the day, and he said, Adam, the person writing is looking at what's taking place. And Adam said to the Lord, right? And then Eve, Eve's over here. Eve said, the Lord said that God shall not We now shall not, if we eat of the fruit, we shall surely die. The serpent said, oh, God knows that if the day you eat thereof, your eyes shall be open, you shall be as God. And then, boom, their eyes became open. And the Lord said, it's like, oh, crap. Okay, so the Lord, so he's writing. Someone is writing. Who's the writer? That's what they're not telling you. They'll say, oh, Moses wrote it. Okay, let's go down to the book of Moses. When you go to the book of Moses, the 5 books, the Torah, right? When you go to Exodus, the first thing you see is, let's go to Exodus, any verse, and Moses gathered. So now someone is writing about Moses. And Moses said, right, the congregation, and Moses spoke unto the congregation. So this person is not even a part of the congregation. This person is standing, writing. Moses said to the congregation over here, what does he say? All the congregation of the children of Israel saying, this is the one thing which the Lord commanded. Okay, so Moses said this, and the Lord said this. Now, when Moses and the Lord are together, this person is still writing about what Moses and the Lord is doing. And the Lord said to Moses, take these tablets. Well, if you're writing about what the Lord said about take these tablets, then this book is not by God. That's common sense. That's reasoning, right? Or no? Am I lost? Is it over our heads? This is what the type of reasoning and factual information the Father is getting you to use your brain in a way that no one else on the planet had expected you to be able to do in this day and time. And that's why it's important to tune into the actual facts and subscribe, everyone that wants to know, because this is what we give the Father's words here. I understand now, but if the book of Enoch is not the original, then how would someone really prove about the fallen or ETs? What reference or can someone use when they're telling people this truth? Okay, great question, because I covered this, and that's why I said you have to go back to previous episodes. I mean, if you're just tuning in, that's fine. But there's a previous episode where we talk, it's episode 5, where I go into where the stories come from and how they were copied. The Father explains this in several publications. I had the Akashic Records. I have it in my notes for that episode. Each episode, it's a lot of books that we bring together, right? A lot of books that we bring together to compile a specific episode. And it takes a lot of time. So I don't have my notes for episode 5. However, go to episode 5 and you'll see how I literally go through the events of old tablets that have the records of the biblical text, including the book of Enoch, in older texts. And because the stories were transcribed from the text into these biblical texts that you read, that's why it's read in third person that way, because it's recording, it's writing what was written. That's why it says the 7-day story creation is writing what was written in the tablets. That's why it's reading the way that it's reading. If that's clear. So God created man in his own image, in the image of God, in the image of Elohim created he them. This is someone writing about what was recorded in ancient tablets. There's a book called email me, I'll get you the book list so you can see where the Father talks about it, so you can get those books yourself. Right? Because you have to do your studies outside of the podcast. Obviously, you're all intelligent. Otherwise, you wouldn't be tuning in. But there's a list of books that the actual facts, Dr. Malachi Z.K. York's publications make reference to, right? And in those books, like the Chaldean account of the book of Genesis, it speaks about what tablet the 7 days of creation is in. These are tablets that were thousands of years older than what the Genesis books speak about. The story of the great flood, the great deluge, speaks about Utnapishtim. It speaks about what being he was talking to. It literally gives the name. And in those tablets, it tells you that the gods, and it gives the name of these beings: Enlil, Nanar, Marduk, Ningizida, Ishtar. There's a list of these names of these specific beings who are part of the us, the let us. They don't have, if you put us, who is the us? Forget what the Lord said. Forget what this being said. Who was he talking to? There's a list of beings that was involved. that are listed in the Babylonian text, because this is where the event took place. This is where where they came down and they hovered above their craft, their wheel within a wheel that Ezekiel talks about. Their Nibiru hovered, the spirit of the Elohim, as etheric beings, as light beings as well, hovered upon the surface of the water, because the planet was here. It was just in that area that they were talking about. It was just void and dark. The same way some places where, say for instance, a bomb was to hit a specific part, remote area in Siberia. If a bomb was to hit, then it becomes dark, desolate. Chernobyl is one of those places. A radiation fallout, it's dark, it's cold, no light because the smoke cloud blocks out the sun. The environment looks like for 300 square miles, it's just desolate. No life grows. And then a group of beings come and say, hey, let's create an environment, because we haven't found a man to do work for us. We can't go into this environment. We can't do this hard work. Our people are complaining, and this is the story of the Anunnaki in the tablets that this Genesis story copies, that when these beings came to the planet, it says, we have not found a man to till the ground. So when the religious world says they're up there lying on Sunday to try to get money from you, to say God wants you to do this, he wants you, that's not what this book said he wanted you to do. He literally wanted you to be a slave. These beings needed a man. They couldn't find one. They needed a servant or a worker, because they came to this planet for a specific job. The Genesis doesn't tell you. It just picks up certain verses, and the father had to come fill in the blanks to say this was a copy story, because he was one of those beings who came down. He's one of the Nathar. He's one of those deities. They exist. They're extraterrestrial. They have a massive amount of information and if you're chosen to get it, things will be made clear to you, but you have to be willing to open your mind up to it. Not something you can close off because you think you're going to get burnt in hell and your body's in a coffin. They don't tell you how you're going to burn if your body's in a coffin. That type of logic, you're not ready. If you're not ready to relieve that ridiculous stuff you can't digest with the information these beings have come. But these beings, when they came, they needed gold on this planet. They needed to mine, because in South Africa and other places they found the gold, because on their craft they had an event in the heavens that caused their ozone layer, an event same way your ozone layer is depleting. Theirs happened because of a war that took place amongst extraterrestrial species. So they needed a gold dome to prevent the species from dying out, because the ultraviolet rays was killing their species. So they were scouting the planet for gold, and they traveled this in a shard. It's called a shard. It's 3,600 years, right? Where they come to this planet. And then when they came into an environment that was desolate, and they said, well, let us make a man, let us breed a man that looks like us. Let us use our genes. Let us use genes of the Pleiadians. They were using various species genes, including the beings on the planet who had evolved from the water and evolved from the ancient metazoans and amoebas that was on the planet, where scientists say that this is what? Evolutionary man. The extraterrestrial intervention comes in, that we spoke about in episode 1 and 2, the origins of man, the creation of the Caucasoid, the creation of the black Nagardan. We spoke about it there. But these beings, when they saw certain species, they used their genes and sped up their creation and used their genetics and closed the missing link. This is the missing link that scientists say, well, we don't know when man from evolutionary man became Homo sapien. For some reason, there was a jump, there was a leap, because those beings, when they came down, they used their genes and bred and said, let us make man in our image. Let us breed this Adamite. And they used their genetics and to till the ground and do the work for them. But at the same time, because they were a hybrid, they weren't necessarily a natural nature created being like you are, created from the sun and an environment from your ancestors on Africa, bred from the soil, bred from their genetics with their brown skin, your hair that grows towards the sun. Their creation was different. And that happened 6,000 years ago. This is the Genesis story. So when they bred this being, the creation of this race, they also used them for sacrifices, and they used them for blood, for food as well. This is why you find cannibalism in there, because they saw them as the other white meat, the same way you look at the pig. You don't treat pigs the same way you treat other animals. You don't cook lions and tigers and elephants and roast them and saute them like you do pork. Pork you look at as a being specifically made for to be eaten. This is human beings. This is the nature of their overlords in the genes of the Adamites. So the way you treat animals is the same way these beings treat certain species of humans. You pick and choose what animals that you want to treat like pets, and you pick and choose what animals to use for labor. You pick and choose what animals you use for work, and you pick and choose what animals you use for food. Like chicken, everyone eats chicken, right? Everyone eats this pork, and but this pork is a white meat, and it's favored by pork eaters. So extraterrestrials, the Bain Elohim, certain beings look at the white meat of the human species, right? The Caucasoid species, and they use them for food. This is what the harvest is about. To say, well, this is why they become missing. They in the 1980s, right? Well, the Anunnaki, okay, is question. I tuned in late. So the Anunnaki is not the same as God, right? God is a title that the Anunnaki were given in the translation, because the translators didn't know. First of all, Anunnaki is the Sumerian word. There's a Sumerian cuneiform language in every culture. This group of beings has a different name. Has a different name. So in ancient Sumer, their name was Anunnaki. These beings coming down to earth. It was a group of beings. In the Hebrew tongue, by the time Abraham introduces one of them, there was a group of them. Abraham introduces one of these lords. Their name became Elohim. It's still a plural. The yod and the mem at the end of a word in Hebrew denotes plurality. And that's the confusion this is where the religious world just stops. They just stop at the biblical text in the Elohim. Elo, yod mem, Elohim. El, Elohim, Elo, right? One is one being. When they in a group, they become Elohim. The same thing with team. The word team is a unit. It's a one being. One group. However, in a team, you have beings there, quarterbacks, running backs, linebacker, wide receiver, and they all have different names. It's the same thing. With fish, these are fish. But you can have a fish that's one, and you can have a fish that's a group. The same with Anunnaki. The Anunnaki are a group. They're a group in Mesopotamia. They're a group to the Hebrews. They came down in Genesis. These are the beings in Genesis. But the translators translated it as one. Email me for a book called God, 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 What is the Difference? So the Anunnaki they're a specific race of extraterrestrials that come from a specific star system, that the biblical text or the Quranic text is a record of their events. It's a record of where they come from. It's a record of who they bred. Right? I see a question, Born King. Right? And so to the sister, yes. However, they have specific names. And the names were so confusing to the translators that all of them just became a lord. This is a lord. That is a lord. He's a lord. Lord bow. Lord this. Lord that. In every chapter you see a lord interacting with the Philistines, interacting with the Israelites, a lord interacting with Ezekiel, a lord interacting with Jeremiah and Joel. And you think they're all the same being, because the translators couldn't tell you, oh, that's Enki, that's Nanar, that's Enlil. The only thing they could say was, oh, there's a group, let us go down there, and this left you confused. So in our publications, you have to do the reading in order. I'm doing my best to try to explain it for those that don't have the publications, but you can get the additional publications, a list of them that the Father has written, and I hope that answers it in brief. But these beings bred this Adamite from other species, and when they bred them, they, over a period of a few hundred years, as they began to mix and mingle amongst each other, they started to get out of control after they had been raped and their descendants had become evil and wicked, and they started roaming the planet and going to people's lands and stealing human beings and coming into your land, Africa, which was they never was supposed to do. They started to go into other lands and taking lands because they weren't given a land. They were given laws, so they had to be controlled. They were given laws called Levitical laws to control them in order to be maintain order of this new species. And these beings was upset because they began to cause havoc on the planet. They said, okay, we have to get rid of them. And they've been trying to get rid of them for the last 6,000 years through various plagues, the bubonic plague, the black plague, the Spanish flu, the COVID, the earthquakes, all types of ways to get rid of this species, because once they were bred, they began to become out of control, and other extraterrestrial species saw what they were doing on the planet. And unfortunately, you all began to adopt and convert to their doctrine and worshiping their gods. The Adamites brought their doctrine to you and say, no, you have to worship my God. My God is the real. Look at him. He wants sacrifice. He wants blood. They had to do that in order to appease their gods. When you read the book of Leviticus, they had to bring them animals after the flood. Or Noah had to gather all the animals and put them on the altar. And this Lord was smelled it. He was like, okay, that's a sweet savor. Read it. It was a huge barbecue. When these beings come, Abraham was like, okay, Sarah, they're under the tree in Genesis chapter 18. He had to go to the herd because he knew what he had to give them. Genesis 18, when you read it, it shows you that he had to go feed them. It says, the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent of the door. And Abraham, he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, 3 men, they came as men. So when they come physically. And that's why but you don't know how they look, because when they incarnate, their bodies, their face, they become like, it's like, oh, shoot, if you see him, you might die. Why does it say if Moses looked at the Lord's face, he would die? Because some of them were hideous. They weren't like, it's like looking at a roach face to face, a huge roach. What happens? That's crazy, but that's what came to my head. If you had a roach, have you seen a roach under a microscope? Have you seen a fly? You remember the movie The Fly, right? You literally, the female that saw the fly, she was like, ah! It was like, what the hell? Because these beings, you don't know how these beings show up. So when Moses was like, you can't see the face of the Lord because you would die, he would say, turn his back. Because these beings were not what you think, and they would have to bring them food. So in order for them not to be eaten, Aaron was like, okay, let's bring them sacrifices. So when Noah was like, okay, now you get the point. Noah, put those animals on the altar. If y'all don't do this for us when we come, we're going to be eating up your own inhabitants. And that's what Moses sent the spies up. And they came back. You read it in the book of Numbers. The spies came back like, yo, they over there, the Anakim, the Anakites, the Anunnaki, they eating up the inhabitants. We're like grasshoppers to them. It's like, okay, so these are extraterrestrial beings. That's all it is. And the Father has made it clear that when they came, because of their technology, and I'm back to the sister's question, from various planets, because of their technology, right? You would say, wow, this is a God, whether it was good or bad. You don't care, because it's like, this is a being that I have to respect, that I'm afraid of in a sort of kind of way. I'm like, this being is coming from a craft, right? A wheel within a wheel. They come out 15 feet tall. They have technology to build, but they still have physical bodies and they still want to eat. And so when Abraham was aware of these beings, right? When Abraham was aware of these beings, because he was familiar with them in the land of Chaldees, so he knew who they were. So when he went and saw them, he already knew he had to feed the beings. Noah already knew he was responsible. He had to feed the beings. That's why we were reading about cannibalism, because they were allowing their children to be eaten. But Abraham made a covenant to say, I'll feed you, we will feed you, the children will feed you, and make sure in this agreement you don't eat us. You don't take us. And that's why they were called so-called prophets, because they were like, listen, you have to control, and most of them were not a part of that. Most of them were not a part of being eaten. So I hope that's clear as best as I can. And now the Father is incredibly detailed. I mean, that's why I'm telling you, if you want to really get the stories right, and verse by verse, he has an abundance of publications with so many different verses, so many different quotes, so many different chapters, so much information. It's just beyond anything that we could ever imagine. And we are blessed to have him in this day and time. That's why you see him here. You see the way he's looking at you all even now. He's aware of what's going on. He's aware that he wants these actual facts out to the world. He knows you all are ready for it. He knows this hereafter doctrine. Your minds are prepared for it. He knows you've been asking for it. This is why he came. This is why he left it to us. And I just pray and hope that you all are able to grasp it in a way and maintain support so we can free him, because in order for us to be free, we have to acknowledge who our deities are for this one time. We have to do this one time. It's a now or never, because in no time in our story have we been able to free ourselves from the bondage of foreign races because we didn't have the right knowledge. We didn't have Wu Sabat. Now, Wu Sabat is as our spiritual science. It's already in your genetics because it already makes sense. I'm not giving you anything that outside of what's in their books and outside of what the actual facts is. I'm not speaking of anything abnormal. I'm not giving you something that doesn't make sense. People can tune in and say, that makes sense. It makes it really, because it just ties in, and that's what reasoning is. So we've been going for about 2 hours. I was supposed to get into these other creatures. I think, let me say, hold on 1 second. You have anything to say? Please put it in the. Okay, so let's get into these other beings, or is it? What should I continue? Let me know if I should continue. If you want to hear about these other beings, because we didn't touch on the fish man. The reason why we have the beings are, I try to compile in one lecture to cover it enough, because obviously this is content. Now, I'm not expecting everyone to stay in the whole time, which is a blessing if you do. It's great. But it's more so later when we could chop up the lectures to clips that people who have to go out, who may have came in for 30 minutes, missed the ending, they'll be able to catch this in the clips that we put up on the channel, so we can make the content more, we can flood the internet and the world with the doctrine. Yeah, so put in your question. I'm open for questions, so I'll see your question. Put your questions in. Yes. Don't be mad when you, okay, it says, is that a question? Ben Carey, don't be mad when you try to tell people about these. Oh, Hakal. Yeah, right, exactly. Right, the actual facts. Oh, yeah, it's okay. I don't think people right now, I think people are outside of the attacks because it's like, we were attacked, but now people are waking up to where they're like, okay, everyone is talking about this extraterrestrial thing. And when we were talking about it, we were attacked at some time because people weren't ready for it. Now they are pretty much ready. So we are on the same page. But yes, just put your question in. And if I don't answer it here, I'll try to answer it in the future, because we do have a question and answer segment coming up where I will take the 10, 20, 30 best questions. Oh, okay. The questions and answer it. But let's get to this fish man. And we've just compounding this. The Father mentions these freaks, these creatures, so you'll know, like, wow, there's not just this species in the book of Genesis, chapter 6. You have a fish man, a fish god of the Canaanites that's in there as well. You'll see this being in the book of Samuel, Samuel 5, verse 2 through 7, under the Strong's number 1712, the house of Dagon. Now, a lot of you may not know that the Samson, when he had destroyed this temple, that was the temple of Dagon. This was a fish deity, right? Where the Pope gets the Mitra symbol, this fish cap, right? They from this Dogon or Dagon, it was literally a mermaid. Not, I think a mermaid is a he maid or her maid, he maid, her maid. It's a word they use for mermaids, right? The word for a male mermaid. I don't know the name. I forgot the name, but in the ancient Sumerian, they call it a Dagon, right? Dagon tribe. I really meant, okay. Yeah, right. Dagon, right. They exist. So this Dagon or Dogon fish coming from Mesopotamia. Now, in the Sumerian language, this Dagon fish or Dogon deity is like, how is it in the Bible? Is it in the text? If you don't believe in these creatures or beings, extraterrestrials. When people say, do you believe in extraterrestrials? They ask a religious person, they'll say no. But you have Dagon, a being of Mesopotamia, a fish being in your book, having a temple that literally exists and it was worship. It says the reference is the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature. This being was worshipped in ancient Syria across the middle of the Euphrates. According to Joshua, the book of Joshua 19:27, chapter 19, verse 27, it says, and turneth towards the sun rising to Beth Dagon in the territory of the tribe of Asher. Samson destroyed the temple of Dagon in Judges 16:23. So if you wanted, everyone heard the story of Samson, but they don't know why he destroyed the temple, right? It was a temple of Dagon because these gods of ancient Mesopotamia, they were warring against each other. They were fighting against each other, and therefore they were fighting over the control over who would be worshipped. Enlil wanted to be worshipped. Enki wanted to be worshipped. Dagon wanted to be worshipped. They had their own cults. Nanar wanted to be worshipped. This is why you find temples and places throughout Mesopotamia, specifically in Nineveh, not Nineveh, in Chaldees, we spoke about before, where you find a ziggurat to Nanar. It's one of the oldest temples there. And ISIS tried to destroy it. This ISIS group, this terroristic group, they tried to destroy it. And during the ISIS attacks, that time they were going to war, and they were trying to destroy the evidence of these beings, of their Allah being one of these beings. Allah was of that group, an Elo, an El of that tribe. He was Nanar, the fire being. That's why they say Allah is Noru, the light. These beings were giving would cast fire as a destructive mechanism, right? So this Dagon being had a temple in the book of Judges. It says the lords of the Philistines gathered them together to offer a great sacrifice unto Dagon, their god. This is another one of these creatures, a mermaid, a male being that would come out of water and teach individuals. Now, teach different depending on the person. In the book of Chronicles, right? It says in chapter 10, verse 8 through 10, and they put his armor in the house of their gods and fastened his head in the temple of Dagon. Another temple of Dagon is in Joshua 15:41. This is literally in 4 verses in their book. Why don't the religious world address who Dagon is? They don't want to tell you about the Anunnaki because they have to tell you about all of the characters and all of the beings there, including their Lord, and they just don't know. They've been lied to like everyone else, and they're passing it on to everyone else like all the religious world is doing, right? So there you have another temple in Joshua. So now you have the Nephilim, you have the land killers in the land of Nod, right? When you say we found out these are killers or murderers, we talked about it, but this is another species that no one addresses. Who are the beings in the land of Nod? And why are they killing? And if they are killing, who are they killing? And if you're killing, that means you're not children. They're not children going around babies killing other babies. They're literally people, beings killing other beings. And they're male and female. But how did they pick up the nature of killing if they weren't created by this Lord in the book of Genesis? That means there was another species in another part of the world. That means the whole world wasn't created by Adam and Eve or populated by Adam and Eve in that story, because these were killers. And if you have the desire to kill, that means you've learned how to kill from some other species. How are you killing? Are you killing with your bare hands? Are you killing with weapons? Are you murdering because of a specific act? Do you have retribution for this? Right? And so these beings, this was inhabited beings of one of the Anunnaki, and they were populated in this Pacific land. And you'll see it in the book of Genesis, chapter 6, chapter 4, verse 14. 4, verse 14, it says that everyone that findeth me may slay me. Therefore, whoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken upon him sevenfold. So this killer, Cain, was protected by a killing Lord, because this Lord protected a murderer. This Lord, this Enlil killer that killed and drowned, he would destroy man, protected another murderer. These were all killing and murdering and negative and evil species or races. Why would this Lord protect Cain and not protect Abel? But you say he's merciful and loving. Why would he why would he protect Cain from receiving justice? Shouldn't Cain have received justice, or the same eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, as you say? Shouldn't the Lord have said, yes, you're supposed to be killed because you killed your brother? No, he said, vengeance is mine. If they kill, vengeance shall be taken. So he's protecting another killer. So these are a killing species, a killing race, a killing seed. The word slay there is harag, to smite with deadly intent. That's what the word there. So that's another species. So we covered about 8 species just in the book of Genesis alone, maybe 10. Nephilim, Gibor, the sons of the deities, the Bane Elohim in both incidences, the giants, right? The Lord coming amongst the men, the progeny of their descendants, the daughters of the Adamites, and the Cain and the killers of the land of Nod, and the killer and the people they were killing. Because if they were killing others, then obviously they may not even have been of that same species. So we don't even know. That's 10 alone right there in one chapter, one book. You have unicorns. Now, how did unicorns become in the book? Well, you find it in the book of Job, 39:10. So don't make Nuwapians or Sabians or people who adhere to actual facts crazy because you don't want to accept extraterrestrials, but you have, right? Right. You see why they protected Abraham. Why did he protect Cain? He didn't even protect Abel. He could have said, Abel, look, your brother's crazy. You see your brother over there? That Negro is about to kill you. You better do better, right? You better not get him jealous. Give me the sacrifice. Go send it through, Uber Eats. Don't show it to him, right? He could have did it that way. But he let Cain see the offering and compared the two and made Cain feel some kind of way to arouse jealousy, and then asked, well, where's your brother? How come you didn't know he was going to kill him? All knower. It doesn't work that way. They're teaching lies. So unicorn, right? The unicorns are there in the book of Job, chapter 39:10. Can thou bind the unicorn with the band in the furrow? It uses unicorn 9 times. Know today. Now, in the ancient Indian Indus Valley, right? This is a reference by Unicorns and Other Magical Creatures by John Hamilton, written in 2010. It says the earliest inscription of them is in the Cestius in a book called Indinka, described as wild asses, fleet of foot, having a horn, a cubit and a half long. So they exist. Aristotle mentions unicorns in book 3, chapter 2, on the part of animals. Antigonus of Choristus writes about them in the compilation of marvelous accounts on page 66. Strabo, the Greek historian, speaks about unicorns as well. And Geography and Philosophy mentions them in chapter 1, book 15, section 56 of Geography. These are your extra biblical texts, along with actual facts that the Father has written, right? But these are your European and your French so-called historians that write about unicorns, but they're supposed to be mythological creatures. So are we to accept unicorns and not accept that these sons of God rape the women? Or the Bane Elohim, you have angels having wings? Let's move forward. Pliny the Elder mentions unicorns as one horned beast, very fierce, head of a stag and the feet of an elephant, the tail of a boar and body of a horse. This is in Pliny the Elder, Pliny's natural history. And you know if you about Pliny the Elder, he has several books in natural history, and it was translated by John Bostock. And in book 8, chapter 30, and in unicorns used in many arm crest, right? I'm just giving you the history of unicorns because these are creatures. I don't know if they're extraterrestrials, where they necessarily come from, but this in their book. The same way you have a Barak in the Quran. Muslims try to play like this doctrine is so far-fetched when you have a creature with wings. Y'all talk about these horses with wings. You use it in your zodiac sign. Minotaurs and Sagittarius, a man with a horse and a horse body and man upper part. Well, you have it there. The unicorns are used in Christian countries on the crest of their flags. Hungary has it. France has it. Czech Republic has it. Germany, Lithuania. Are they real? These are unicorns on the crest of flags of certain countries. Mythological creatures is in your book. You have dragons in the book now. Dragons are in the book of Revelations. Chapter 12, you'll see the great dragon was cast out. This word in Greek is drakon. You'll see it as a fabulous kind of serpent. Dragons are of Asian culture. They existed before the Bible. Yes, I'll do it a week, an episode a week. So many of y'all have asked, so I'll have to do it. I'll do it once a week. So no problem. 9, pan-satar. Oh, now you have a satire. This is where the word devil comes from. Why are they trying to say, we spoke about this, those that are coming in, you have the word devil is translated from the Strong's number 8163. It means Satyr. It's the same word used for Esau. Look at the book of Genesis 25:25. So when people talk about Jacob and Esau, Jacob was, instead of them translating it as devil, they said, oh, it's Esau. Why? Why do you translate the same Hebrew word? Let's go to 25 so we can read it. Why do you translate the same Strong's number Hebrew word, Sa'ir, which is what? A mountain, hairy, furry he-goat, a devil, a hairy kid, rough. In chapter 25, verse 25, it says, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. That word should be translated as devil, the same way you translated it as devil in Leviticus 17:7. Look at Leviticus 17:7. Compare the Strong's number. Just pull up a Strong's concordance. You'll see one says translated as devil. The other one is translated as Esau, a devil. Then you see it in Genesis 25:25. Also, it's in Isaiah 13:21. So they have it as a real creature. What is it? It's a goat man. It's a being with half man, half goat. Is this a real being? It's in Isaiah 13:23. Let's read it. And satire shall dance. Right? This is where they get the word pan from. That being pan, that they say this man is panned out, where they get the word panic. This is a part of this is the devils that they worship. These are the creatures, these beings, these extraterrestrial beings that have crept their way into your biblical text, and you calling them gods and worshiping, and we don't even have an idea what they've been giving us. Now we found uncovering the Father has given us all types of creatures and showing us all these extraterrestrial beings in the group. It says, and wild beasts of the desert shall be there, and their houses shall be full of colorful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. So you have satyrs there, goatmen. Now, what is it about them? Well, according to historians, a satyr are shown with ears and the tails of a horse, walking upright on two legs, with bestiality or bestial faces, snub noses, mane-like hair, bearded and balding, mostly nude. And this reference is in West 2007, Hansen 2004 on page 19. You know I'm going to bring the actual facts when we speak about this. This is what the channel is about. No belief, none of that gossip, none of that. Facts here is for your own understanding and your own soul. Riggs speaks about it, 2014 on page 23. And the most common depiction of satyrs are drinking wine, dancing, playing flutes, chasing nymphs, which are obviously sexual deviants, and consorting with Fancer. And so Fancer writes about it on page 325. Now, they hide the fact that these are creatures in your book. Satyrs dance in Isaiah 13:21, and in 34:14, the satyr shall cry to his fellow. Is mentioned 4 times. The Israelites used to offer sacrifices to this being. This is what the Israelites were doing, right? Sacrifices to this being. And now this is the one that Esau was supposed to get the birthright from, a devil. If you read the story, Jacob stole Esau's birthright, right? That's what happened. So these are devils involved that came. So they were born. That's the seed of Abraham. Is that what you claim to be as Africans? You want to tie into goat men? That's ridiculous. Another species they don't talk about that's in the book. It's called a cockatrice that the father mentions about. And it's in Isaiah 11:18. He put his hand on a cockatrice's den. The word is cockatrice, and is this a description in several. Actually, it's described in many places. Even in Romeo Juliet, they speak about this character. Pliny the Elder speaks about it as well. Right? Yes, we speak about breath techniques. We have that. We'll cover that. The body. We'll cover a health lecture as well. So this, to your question, the father wrote a book, a breath book. So we'll cover it. We have to cover that. So, and because it helps with your development, your brain, and helps you become a deity again. The cockatrice, right, is mentioned in Jeremiah 8:17. For behold, I will send cockatrice. This is the Lord sending these cockatrice. And what are they described as? Let me tell you the description. And why is this Lord sending cockatrice to people if it's not a real species, if it's not a real being? It's not something that scientists talk about. They speak about it in Pliny the Elder. Is recorded in history. It's recorded in your Bible. Why isn't the religious world speaking about it? Why aren't they talking about how their Lord sent a cockatrice in Jeremiah 8:17? Let me read it so you'll see it's in your book. This is their Bible. This is their record. Now, the reason why this is important is because you can't say that they're not creatures of other species, other races, other worlds in this book. 18:17, you'll see it says what? And I will scatter them as with an east wind before the enemy. Oh, 8, pardon me. 8:17. I was in the wrong chapter. Let's go to 8:17. Ask these people. Don't let them get off the hook because you got the verses. Stand up in church and say, excuse me, why is the Lord sending cockatrice to people? What is a cockatrice? It's an extraterrestrial species, a dragon with wings, and it hisses, and it looks like a serpent. It flies, right? It doesn't advance its body. It destroys all shrubs, not only by its contact, but these has breathed upon. It destroys them from its breath. And your Lord uses them and sends them to people in the book of Jeremiah 8, verse 17. Let's look at it. It says, for behold, I will send serpents, cockatrice, among you, which will not be charmed, and they will what? Bite you, saith the Lord. This is crazy. This being is steady sending all types of creatures and characters and rapes and murders and cannibalism all throughout these people of the book, and they want you to be a part of these people. They want you to claim to be of these bloodline. Now, Pliny the Elder speaks about the cockatrice as, first of all, Romeo and Juliet speaks about it. The death darting eye of the cockatrice, right? And also, I think, oh yeah, it's in Central Park. Look up the cockatrice over door at Belvedere Castle at New York Central Park. It was built in 1869. It's wild. I know it's wild. I'm laughing reading. I hopefully you are enjoying it, but I'm just like, this is crazy. How you sending cockatrice and serpents to people? What type of being you supposed to be holy somewhere in the sky wanting all good, and you down on the planet sending creatures with death darting eyes and serpents to people that hiss and they're acknowledged as real beings according to the historians about writing about these beings. Now, what does it say about this cockatrice? Its abilities to kill people by looking at them. Look at this. Its ability to kill people by looking at them. The death dart. Okay, let's move forward because we have more to cover. There's more being species, and I'm just going to keep going. So this will be up, so you can come back to it and share it as much as you can. Now, there's beast dressed in sackcloth. In Jonah, right? Because we've read about beast in the book of Genesis chapter 3, which says the beast of the field. And then it says there's this beast here in Jonah 3, but let man and beast be covered with sackcloth. So not only should man be covered in sackcloth, but cover the beast as well. Who are these beasts? Sackcloth, and cry mightily unto the Elohim. So they want the beast to be covered. Obviously, they're not animals because you don't cover animals with sackcloth. A beast is not described there as an animal. It's a beast man. And they have movies called Beast Man where they show beings who coming out. There's a movie called Beast Man where a guy was in the woods. He covered himself in sackcloth and he came out as a beast. So they have that there. That's another creature. Cockatrice. We have unicorns, dragons, satyrs, or right? We have that. We have beast. Now we have Leviathan. Let's go to Leviathan in the book of Job 41:1. You see. Yes, please like. Thank you. Or everyone, just like it. It gives the algorithm, this floods the algorithm, and it puts it into the people's faces that need to hear this information, right? Because this is the fastest growing podcast on YouTube. So Leviathan, this is a sea creature. This is a sea monster. It's a large fish. Job 41:1. Canst thou draw out Leviathan with a hook, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down? So when you look at Leviathan, it's a huge dragon. Again, you have dragons in the water, and Job is asking, or this Lord is asking, can you draw out Leviathan with a hook? Can you fish Leviathan? And Leviathan is spoken of in other verses where they're literally trying to acknowledge this Leviathan and give it power. They were praying to this dragon being. And the spell of Leviathan is over people because of its behavior and how it lures people into its will, under its spell. Now, that's Leviathan. And then you have lion men, half lion, half men. You have them spoken of in the book of Chronicles. So 2 Samuel speak about it. In the book of Chronicles, it says he slew 2 lion-like men of Moab. Also in the book of Samuel, it says he slew 2 lion-like men as well. And there, so Ariel is the Strong's number 739. Lion men. In the book of the Lion Men of Holstein is a prehistoric ivory sculpture discovered at Holstein Stadel, a German cave in 1939, believed to be 35,000 to 41,000 years old. So they acknowledge lion men, half lion, half. These are your centaurs. These are your minotaurs. These are beings these are your hybrids who were bred to be animal genes, which they're doing now. They're now catching up with this technology. They're mixing genes. They're taking the genetic material of an embryo, adding the cells. They have some type of, they did a goat's milk. There's an article that speaks about where they took the silk of the silk of a worm and mixed it in with the milk of an animal and made this incredible strength fabric that was like some armor resistant, or this steel resistant fabric that they're breeding from the silk of a worm, mixing it with other animals. They have all types of genetic engineering now where they can combine genes and have animals give birth to mixed breeds or hybrids. This is something that extraterrestrials were doing thousands of years ago. It's in your biblical text, and now you're just catching up to it, right? Now, let's zombies. Zombies, you see in the book of Zechariah 14, their flesh shall consume every away while they stand upon their feet. Matthews speaks about it, the book of Matthew, chapter 27, verse 52. And the graves were open, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose. So these are beings coming out of their grave. Their bodies are deteriorating and they coming out of their grave. So zombies are spoken of there. And it goes on and on. Now, what do we get to? What's the ultimate overstanding from this lecture? Is that extraterrestrial beings, Elohim, Anunnaki, this book is filled with all types of creatures that are out off world, unexplainable, angels with wings. You have in your Quran, you have a being who descend. Allah is a extraterrestrial as well. Being he came and he descended down from the heavens and made man. And then they always say they go back to heaven, they travel back. They don't explain how they travel. Yahshua, Jesus of 2,000 years ago, he literally says he came from above. He came from the heavens and came down to the planet. They don't explain where he comes from. Literally, he speaks about that in the book of John. In John 8, he says, ye are from above, ye are from beneath, I am from above. They use the word in the Greek, Orion. In Luke, it has Oranos there under the Strong's number Greek word 3772, Oranos, which are in heaven. Their Lord is in heaven, in Orion. So it's all has to do with these species. So get into your minds that these beings have been coming back and forth to the planet. They have mixed in with human beings. They've raped human beings. Your books speak about it. There's other species that go unexplained: mermaids, cockatrice, goatmen, satyrs, devils, talking serpents, beings of lying beings of the book of Genesis, the Lord as a liar, creating man in their image and after their likeness, who became evil, all types of activities taking place. And it can go on and on, from chimera to griffins to ghouls to specters. They talk about ghosts and holy ghosts and spirits coming down and they want you to get this spirit in this church and run around, drop on the floor, foam at the mouth, talking about you speaking in a tongue, a language that you don't know. In other cultures, you'll call it demon or spirit or voodoo possession. But because it's happening in your church, you think it's something holy, which really just means it's a whole being. It doesn't mean it's a righteous being. So you have to recalibrate and readjust your mind with these actual facts, because you have to get back to who you are and what descendants or being or perfect creature you were created as and created after your deities, your Nathard, who bred you in the perfect environment with the perfect genetics to match the planet in a 24,000 year cycle, in the 24 time zones, on the 24 with the 24th element, which is chromium, with the 24 senses that you have and the 24 perfections that you, as a Nagardinadu African, must perfect yourself in this cycle and moving on. And this is what this actual facts is doing. And we want to give again gratitude and appreciation to our Father in flesh, our deity, our Elohim, our Yahweh, our Nathard in flesh, who came to us. And we have a right to respect him and love him and acknowledge him and worship him the same way you worship Michael Jackson, the same way you worship all your so-called rappers and your singers and people. You go to these concerts and yell and scream and say every verse, every word of their song, and dress like and try to look like and tattoo your body like. The moment we say we have a God and we have a deity that looks like us, that came to give us right knowledge, you want to try to condemn and make us feel negative and bad because we don't want to worship your devil. No, we don't have to. And we're standing on it, and we're standing on business when it comes to correcting the minds of our people and eliminating the lies, because they must go and they must be dismantled. And we're going to do it on the actual facts. So we appreciate you all tuning in. If you have any questions, please put it in. We're about to close it down. I appreciate you all tuning in. I hope you all subscribe. I hope my TikTok family understand the importance of this actual facts. And also come to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. I'll be going live there as well and posting clips. Now, the book of Simeon were about monkeys. Some of them worship monkeys and cats. Exactly. They still do. They worship in statues and images. People are worshiping paintings and pictures. Someone drew a cartoon or a picture of this right here, even in Africa, in my home country. When I speak about to my people, I'm like, why do you have a drawing of a Mukasu and that's supposed to be Jesus, and you have 5 different pictures in different vehicles? Like, which one is the real one? And none of them are African. So all we have to do is open our mouths and begin to speak to people, and it will hit right in. A lot of our people just don't have the courage to speak because they're afraid. You have to have the courage. That's what this is about. What was the verse? You like that cockatrice verse? That was kind of crazy, right? Oh, it's in the cockatrice verse is in Isaiah 11:8, right? It's also in Isaiah 59:5 and Jeremiah 8:17. I appreciate you all for tuning in. This was definitely one of my this was definitely a good um lecture for me, because even as I speak to you all, I learn a lot, and I get my information and downloads that come to me that ties it in with reasoning. Thank you. And so, just again, before we close, just share it real quick so people can check it out. At the it will be posted. Yes. Yeah. So again, thanks you all. I see a lot of viewers. Subscribe. If you want to become a member, acknowledged as a member or supporter, you can do so. Just $2 membership. We are going to love you all too. I really do. I love the minds. I love you all contributing. I love you all's input. I love reading the comments, and I appreciate that. I want to be able to grow the way that we need to grow. March next month. Look out for the launching of the UnitedNubianNation.com, where we will be speaking of. We will be able to vote. We're going to vote in June. So we need all of the bookstores, all of the supporters. We want 1 million votes for Dr. Malachi Z.K. York. It costs nothing. It's not. This is a of you claiming who you are, right? Thank you all for the compliments. My voice sounds good. Thank you. I'm glad the voice is good. I'm glad the tone is good. I'm glad that there was no technical issues. Also, um, just remember that voting for Dr. York is something you saying that you acknowledge him as who he is. You acknowledge him as your president. You know that we need someone of our own in this day and time that's came for us to teach us. We're acknowledging, and this is a legal thing. This is for his legal freedom. This is something that you can do and exercise in your own way, in your own voice. Everyone can do that. And so there's much more to come. We're going to be again voting in June. We also have the documentary coming out from Boston, from Takoradi to Boston. We're going to do his. So this is why it's important to support. You can support again through this chat by contributing whatever you would like, or you can email and then support by make sure you get the publications, which assist in building the nation and building the side, because we have to build a huge database and we have to do the legal work. And I'll update you on that on March. The work is being done so we can get our father out of that hellhole. They Enlilites and those Anunnaki beings who came out against him because he was teaching the facts about who they are, and their system was becoming disrupted because your minds were opening up, and we had our own land, we have our own language, we have everything, our own flag, our own culture, our own dance, everything of our own, and we're going to maintain it. We're going to protect it with the power of our ancestors and our descendants that have protected us this long. And so I appreciate you all. If there's nothing else, we had 2.5 hours, which is pretty good. And you near Boston. Well, that's great. Will all the evil aliens be wiped out? Well, the evil aliens will be wiped out, because not wiped out in a sense of destroyed, but in a sense that they will no longer have control over you. They won't have control over your mind, because you know who your deities are. So your deities are the most powerful in existence. They're responsible for natural nature. They're responsible for the elements. They're responsible for, when you say water, water is a being. Water is a being. The sun is a being. The planet is a being, and we're going to go through that. Our next class is on the 27th. I need time to gather our original creation story. That lecture is going to be incredible as well. So I want to make sure you all have your resources. I mean, your sources and information and all of the actual facts that in the Patrak that the Father has given us, that you'll have that available at your hand, so you'll understand what He taught in the doctrine as far as your creation story. So they won't have control over you any longer once you learn and know who your deities are. And make sure you pray and chant and tune into your own authority, because they're calling on you, they're waiting for you, and they want to give you the power and give you what you need for you to free yourselves and free your race. So I appreciate you all. Make sure you email if you want the publications. The book, the email slowed up. Obviously, maybe we all get distracted, but don't get distracted when it comes to your spiritual growth and your spiritual development. It's necessary in this day and time. You don't have a lot of time. So thank you. Appreciate it. I don't want to do AI. And I can't do all. If you know anyone that wants to help graphics, I need a graphics person. I need a person that can edit, because I want to put up videos. I do a lot. I can't do everything. Your help is needed. That's what nation building is about. If you want to contribute in a way, just email me out something. It's always something for all of us to do collectively. Tawakum to you all. I appreciate. I'm tuning out. I'm staying tuned in, but I'm gonna log off. Make sure you share and make sure you subscribe to Actual Facts, and make sure the world knows that we're here and the Father's here, and he's going to walk this planet soon to make sure that we have exactly what we need and take back what's ours. Take care. Enjoy your evening.